So it's February 3rd, and we'll call the North Kingstown School Committee Budget Work Session to order. The first item on the agenda is to recess into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for any discussion of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected have been notified in advance in writing and advised that they may require that the discussion be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, superintendent contract, District of Operation contract, certified employee non-renewals. Item 2, discussion of any investigation proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct, either civil or criminal, pursuant to RIGL 42465A4, certified employee B. Investigation update, investigation related to athletic coach, and then that is it. So can I get a motion to go into executive, please?
So moved.
Okay, second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. he still didn't really. Like that on purpose, just in case. Okay, you good? Okay. So we will reconvene into open session. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert Case.
Here.
Jennifer Lima. Here. Megan Riley.
Here.
Sherry Kennedy.
Here.
Josh Furtado. Sadie McCann.
Okay, and this is a budget work session, so under item D, you will see the work session guidelines for policy BE. And then we'll move on to citizens' comments. Andrew, can you check and see? Okay, there's no one at this time. Send over citizens' comments. We'll move into routine items. I will disclose that there were no votes taken in executive session today. Can I get a motion to seal the executive session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then can I get a motion for unfinished business item A?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I'll just state that we appreciate Dr. Kudra's collaboration on this contract.
And we're happy to have him.
Well, did we do a motion? To approve.
Motion
Yes,
second.
yes.
Need a vote.
Yes, I know I need a vote. I'm in discussion. Any other discussion before we vote?
No.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we'll say that we're very excited to work with Dr. Duva for the next 3 years.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. So
And that we pre-dated that contract. So your contract currently goes till June 30th, and this one will start on July 1.
thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Duva, anything you want to add there?
Yes, I am excited tonight to welcome Bridget Hayes. Bridget is sitting up here in front. I am recommending Bridget Hayes to the position of Director of Operations for the school district. Mrs. Hayes brings more than 15 years of executive level experience overseeing complex multi-site operations across nonprofit, education, and community-based organizations. Most recently, she served as Director of Administration for the Greater Providence YMCA, where she led operations for an 18 million organization spanning 8 locations. In this role, she provided executive oversight of facilities, safety, human resources, information technology, grants management, marketing, and youth programming while supporting more than 500 employees. I am happy to welcome her tonight. I think her skills will be an excellent addition to us in the position of Director of Operations, overseeing 3 of our departments, which is facilities, transportation, food services, and assisting us with operations throughout the district. So, welcome.
And you are more than welcome to stay, but also more than welcome to leave. We will not take either as anything. So welcome to the district. We're excited to work with you. Okay. Moving on to next item.
Make a motion to table, skip, whatever.
Table. Let's table.
Table.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to move up new business.
Yeah. Okay, can we get a second for that?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of moving A and C, please say aye.
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 Okay, we're just going to ignore. We're going to ignore that there wasn't a B. It's totally fine. It's fine. It's under A. I know what happened, but it's fine. Nope, it's fine.
Yep, second, okay.
Okay, so can I get an can I get a motion for A, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then item C.
Make a motion to appoint Barton Gilman to conduct an independent investigation.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then let's move back to the budget.
You're both going.
I'm going to let
No. I'm just getting us. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about tonight. I think what would be best is for us to start with the staffing recommendations that I sent to you and to review that. It's part of the operating, and then from there, if there are any other questions about operating, we can go through that, and then we can go into the enterprise accounts, if that works for everyone. forward to you earlier what my recommended priorities will be. I will say that I sent this, this was sent to you. We've had additional further conversations today, so I might be adding to this document as we talk tonight.
Just to clarify, nothing was sent.
I shared it in the folder.
It was shared.
I shared with.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it got emailed
No.
to you.
No, I shared it.
Okay.
So-
It was sent, it was put online. I had,
Yep.
Jules put it online and then I
So
shared it.
everybody may not have seen it,
Okay.
just to
All right.
clarify.
No, thank you.
We
Sorry,
may
I
all
thought
have,
it was.
but I
Okay.
just want to.
Almost certainly do not.
Yeah, that's why
So I
wanted
will.
you to
Yeah,
get it.
so I will. I'm going to
Yep,
walk
no
through
worries.
this
Yes,
because I
yep.
know that.
Yes.
So I'm
Oh,
going to
right here, I
actually
found it.
Yeah.
go through line by line.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, I'm in the folder.
It's in supplemental documentation. It is called
Superintendent's
Superintendent's Recommended Staffing.
staffing
Fiscal 27.
plan. Yeah. Sorry, I saw it earlier, and then I'm like, where did it go?
Got it.
Okay. Hold on.
And this is attached for the public.
Yes.
Like we're,
How far
Checking
down?
right
Yeah,
now
no, it is.
because it should be there.
I sent it to Jules. She attached it. I shared it.
Jen, can you confirm that?
Because there's all these.
No, go to
Just
the
wanna get it.
supplemental, yeah, and then,
I'm looking right now, so I have it all in front of me. Yes, it's in there.
click the state modifies this.
It's right after the budget.
Okay.
Right, the
And
budget part.
then
And I
it's right
apologize.
there.
I told her by sharing it, I thought that that was sufficient. So she would have emailed it out. I told her not.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
it would
page
be
90
if we got a
in the
notification.
packet.
But we don't
So
get a
you don't
notification.
get notified
No.
when I share it?
Nope.
No.
Still? I thought I fixed it.
Yeah, no worries. Like I don't need a separate email being like, but if it didn't even hit
Right.
like my inbox. So
Yeah,
no
and that
worries.
goes for anything.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Well, I
We'll
had
try
that
it, but-
issue last night and I thought I fixed that in the settings
Yeah,
so that it would do
no.
that.
Well, I'm gonna go through this. I'm not gonna read the whole memo, I wrote, but I'm gonna go through everything on each page with you.
But it's not in the, I don't think it's in the document for the public.
Yeah,
It
it is.
is.
It is.
in the
Yeah, I'm
shared
looking at it
folder.
right
That's
now.
how I found it
It's there.
today.
Oh, I know, I meant in our packet.
It is. It's
Yep.
page 98.
It's up online.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, under operating budget, got it. Yeah,
It's after the budget book. So we had previously shared with all of you a list of positions that were requested from our staff, right? We, in meeting with principals and directors of what do you feel is needed throughout the district. Obviously, that list is not something that realistically we can put through in one fiscal year. But we need to prioritize what those are and put positions in place that would support the needs that our administrators, staff are asking for at the school level to support them. And that's what we did. There are other positions. I'm not saying, things are off the table. They are definitely not off the table. If we need to reconsider something, we can. Or it might be something that we need to work towards and have a plan in place for future years. But we can't do it all in one budget year. So what I put forward are positions that fall under administration, not necessarily an administrator, but they're administrative because they might be a clerk or something within one of our departments. And then I have the positions that are instructional positions that are in the schools. In doing this, we did look at how we can reallocate and restructure. So I am going to discuss that, what that is. I don't have in here, and I just want to state this out so the committee understands and the public understands. In this restructuring, we are still looking at those positions, having to talk to staff. So when you see that there's a position being eliminated, or I'm saying cuts that would be happening district-wide, those are positions that we'll be making knowing like where we can with FTEs. But I'm not going to say specifically what positions and all, because we have to talk to all of those people, right, and let them know that positions might be changing. So I just respect that part of it. I addressed of these positions that I'm recommending how they align with the goals that we set forth for this year. So when you look at this document, you can see what positions would assist us also with the goals that we have written that were approved in December, and that's on page 1. I want to point out on page 2 where we have the FTEs. This is where the changes are being made, so we just look at the numbers. So in the FY26 current year, we have a total of 572.74 FTEs. That decimal, that 0.74, is always funky because you might have a 0.6 position, you might have a 0.7 position, and when you add all the positions up, that's what you're getting. So 572.74 FTEs. That's full-time equivalent of the number of positions that we have. What I'm proposing for next year's budget would be an increase to 578.74 FTEs in total. So that's a difference of 6 FTEs. Under administration, we currently have 29 FTEs. I'm proposing an increase to 30 FTEs. Under teachers, so that's our certified staff, we currently have 373.16 FTEs. I'm recommending an increase of 375.16. Under ESP, that's our educational support professionals, we currently have 154.5 FTEs. I'm recommending 156.5. So you can see an addition of 2. Under non-union other GCV, those are administrative positions that we have that work district-wide. We currently have 10.71. I'm recommending an increase to 11.71. No change in quotas. Those are our certified OT assistants. They will stay at 5.37. So in total, you'll see that there is an increase of 6 FTEs. Under administration, we have the addition of the director of operations and supervisor of facilities. If you remember, we made a switch with the position of director of facilities, changing that to director of operations, and then adding the position of a supervisor of facilities. There will be an elimination of one administrative position in doing so. And that's an administrative position across the district. For teachers, right now we are looking at, and again, in all of this I'm looking at how we can reallocate funds as well. So when I look at the number of positions we have across the district at the certified teacher level, we are looking at eliminating 3 positions. That elimination of the 3 positions is a reallocation of those resources to other positions. Doesn't mean that we're going to lose people. They're just, positions will change to other positions and there will be movement. And they will be replaced with 5 positions. Of those positions, it would be 2 school psychologists, a special education teacher, and 2 instructional coaches. And I'll get into the details further of where those are going. For ESP, I'm recommending an addition of 2 teacher assistant positions, and that would be at Hamilton Elementary School. And that's to support grade level student needs and safety for supervision during lunch, recess, arrival, dismissal, based on the number of students at that building. For the non-union other GCB, I am recommending an addition of a second controller position in the business department, and that is based on workload and requirements there, and us being able to be more consistent and efficient with the work that we're doing within the business department. And all of these positions have justifications, which you've had. They are also linked to this document. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into regarding the reasons for these positions. I'm happy to kind of go through what I wrote here, but I also don't want to waste any time. But of those administrative priority positions that we have, it is supervisor of facilities, a second financial controller, and I'm just going to, I will be a little more specific in that area, right? And so we're talking about that we need that additional support for district budgets, grants, reporting requirements, and fiscal accountability in order to continue to expand within that role. It's a critical role within the department for strengthening the internal controls, all of the reporting that we have to do, the auditing, and our budget monitoring. And what I have observed over this year is that we do need more assistance and support in that department. The staff accountant, that's a restructuring. We already have the position, but what we are recommending is restructuring the job responsibilities and increasing the responsibilities and oversight of that person to assist within the department. And that will enhance our financial processing, budget and audit coordination, purchasing oversight, grant accounting, and also it would also assist with helping and overseeing within payroll. We're also restructuring, I'm recommending restructuring of the early childhood coordinator position. As we know, we've had some vacancies with our Office of Family Learning. Those were grant positions that we had, and we unfortunately lost our the person that was in that position had multiple roles. It was coordinator for OFL, Office of Family Learning, Title I, and McKinney-Vindon. What I'm recommending and what we will do, and I've had this conversation already with our early childhood coordinator, she will be taking on all of the responsibilities that fall under early childhood that was under the OFL coordinator. And we did talk about, she does have the ability to do so. She does work year round, and so she is here, during the summer as well. So she will be overseeing the child outreach coordinator, the parent as teachers program, and the summer countdown to kindergarten. So in doing so and having those additional responsibilities, I am recommending a slight increase in her salary. And the same as with the staff accountant as well. And that's in the chart on the following page. For certified teaching and student support priorities, I'm recommending 2 instructional coaches at the elementary level. I know we've had discussions about what other supports we could be putting in place. We did have one instructional coach prior that was in a grant, and then the grant ended and we weren't able to continue that position. We've also been asked to look at other districts. What are other districts doing that are showing higher success rates around student achievement? And in doing so, it is the addition of the instructional coaches that are working with their teaching staff on instructional practices that has a direct correlation in student achievement. So it's my recommendation to you that we add 2 at the elementary level and starting there with that work. It's important that we are focusing in on the early years with our students. We have interventionists that work directly with the students. We have interventions in place. We have a strong MTSS program. This will support the teachers as well in their instructional practices and best practices, how they're providing instruction, how they're providing interventions, and there is research to back that. We know that there is additional support needed in mental health. We've seen that over the years, specifically after COVID. We've seen an increase in needs from our student population, elementary through high school. We know that we are not at the level that the National Associations for Social Workers and School Psychologists state that we should have. I believe for school psychologists, it's 1 school psychologist for every 500 students. Most principals, as well as our student services director, has asked for additional mental health support. Requests came in for additional social workers and psychologists. We decided to put forward school psychologists because they can provide testing and work directly with students. So the recommendation for this year is to add 2 more, 1 at the high school. We know there's only 1 school psychologist there right now, so we are not at that best practice, and we know there's a high need there. And then the second school psychologist would be split amongst the elementary schools where there are needs and requests being made. The special education teacher that's on here, that is based on student needs. That is specifically for Hamilton Elementary School. That's based on the current caseload there of the number of students. There are currently 2 resource teachers. We're dealing with a caseload of currently 35 students. We've seen an increase in referrals and eligibility in that area, and that is a need there that we need to fulfill. As well as at Hamilton, we've been hearing since last year with the number of students that we have in that building, that is our largest elementary school in our district. Safety within the school and outside the school of supervision, as well as additional support in the classroom. The original request came in with adding 1 more teacher assistant in each grade level. We can't add all that in at this time. They do have 9 TAs that are building level TAs, 1 in each kindergarten classroom, and then 1 at each grade level. We know that with the number of students there and based on scheduling of how the teacher assistants can support in the classroom, support safety and supervision for arrival, dismissal, lunch, and recess, we are recommending an addition of 2 more. last on my priority list is the addition of athletic coaches. We heard from Mr. Tober, our athletic director, the need to increase athletic coaches. These are stipend positions. They are not, certified like teaching positions. So that is a different category. The reason for this request and the reason why I am putting it forward is due to supervision and safety. He explained to us that there are certain teams that we have that have a high number of students that are engaged in those teams, and we're concerned about the supervision of those students and the safety. Sometimes it also comes down to location, where it's one coach working with JV and varsity, and they're in different places at the same time. We also just know number of students. So the coaches that we're recommending would be at the middle school level for track and cross country. We have a high number of students that are on that team. We want to be able to support that team appropriately. So it would be the addition of assistant coaches to support both middle schools for those two teams. At the high school, it would also be an additional assistant coach for cross country and track at the high school. It's a very large team. Additional assistant coach for the swim team, just for supervision. We have males and females on the same team, and to support them. The other one was golf, and that's because it's being in different locations. The table you have in front of you is the budgetary impact. We have listed here the position, the FTEs, what location it will be located in, the funding source, it's all operating, and what the salary will be, and the benefit. We base this off of looking at top step, because we have to make sure that we have enough money in the budget to hire people, and the benefits go along with what that salary is, and you have a total. If all these positions were added, the total increase without any reallocation of positions and funding would be 1.1 million. After a reallocation of 4 FTEs, which I mentioned earlier, that would be a reduction of $597,463, and the increase to the operating budget for these positions would be $566,339. We are still going through our staffing. We are continuing to meet this week with some of our principals to look at this. So that reallocation could increase based on how we are looking at doing scheduling for next year. Our goal is to look at how we can support the requests and the needs that are coming forward to us from our administrators and staff, and looking at what staff we have and how there could be some changes in order to provide that to the district. There are additional positions that are not on this priority list right now. It doesn't mean everything's off the table. We're still having conversations. One conversation, Dr. Santa is here talking with special education. There may need to be an addition of a teacher and TA. We're really looking at the clinical day program at Davisville Academy. We've talked about moving the middle school program over to DMS. There's an increase in students there. The concern is that we can't just move the entire program. There are some students that need the structure that is in place at Davisville Academy versus going into DMS. Our goal is still to move everyone over. We want the students in the schools to be included in the regular education setting, but we are looking at staffing, and we have a concern with the staffing and then the number of students that would be NTA. So working with her on that, seeing what we can do, but I may have to come back with a request in that area. The request at Davisville Middle School for a part-time or language teacher for Spanish for next year. I had conversations with Mrs. Marr about this. We are looking to see if there's anything we can do around scheduling, or maybe there's other resources in the district that we can reallocate to DMS without having to add a teacher. We're following through with that this week. But just based on numbers, there's 180 students in 7th grade right now that will be moving up to 8th grade. We have 2 teachers in that building that teach Spanish. In 8th grade, they each teach 2. There are 4 classes in total. They each teach 2 off block. So that would that would provide the instruction to 100 students. So now you have 80 students. Some may not all be taking Spanish, but you've got to factor in roughly maybe another 50. So we need to look at how we can support that. So we are looking to see if there's anything we can do with scheduling throughout the district. I'm trying to see how we can reallocate the resources we have in order to meet the needs. So that is still something that we are looking at. Other requests that came through is at the more administrative district level. There were other requests that we said, we just can't do right now. I know there was a request in transportation with, increasing the fleet if we can. We will still look at that. We can look, maybe I know we had conversations last night at Budget and Finance about how, we can put funds into our fund balance, dedicating towards, transportation to the fleet. So, we can look at that as well. There are requests for additional, drivers and monitors that we did take off from last year, or actually this current year. So that is something we still need to look at. Any questions? Anything I might have left off?
And just to clarify, if I remember correctly, Ken, it was $3 million was the original list, right? So you whittled it down from like the really big list.
Yes.
It was about $3 million, right?
Yes.
So we got it from
So
$3
these
million
are like
to
the
$1 million.
priorities. You
Yeah,
have to
so we're down.
prioritize.
Yeah.
Yep, so it was three. It was
Yeah.
3 million. Yeah, there were other requests. I know we've talked about.
I just wanted to give you all credit for working and prioritizing. That was all.
Thank you. I know we talked about expanding the preschool. You can see I didn't mention that tonight. We do want to. That is a goal of ours, but that comes with an even more expensive cost. Increasing another preschool classroom for next year. Again, I mean I would love to see that. It would be just over $200,000. Sorry, we have it. It's in one of the docs. We have just over $200,000. That's with adding a teacher with salary and benefits, TA with salary and benefits, furniture because we need to furnish the entire classroom, right? So it's money for furniture, instructional supplies and materials, some toys. And I don't mean toys in the way of playing, but they need, I'm saying toys, but they need those types of material. It's preschool. They learn through play. They have centers. They need to have that, as well as the curriculum. So, again, it's not off the table, but I didn't add it to this list right now just because of the cost of it. And looking at, what
Is that
positions...
the cost after revenue or the cost?
No, that's cost before revenue. We could factor in what that tuition would be. So in there you would, we could plan that you would be getting 16 tuitions coming in for that program because it would be a half-day program. So 8 students in the morning, 8 students in the afternoon. We just looked at what's going to service most, like the largest population of our school community.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the committee?
I have a couple. And like Erin said, thank you for prioritizing these because that's helpful in making a informed decision. The school psychologists 100% agree on adding one to the high school because one is not nearly enough. And my question is, adding 2, that still doesn't put us at 1 full-time in every building, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No. And looking at the proposed placement that Rachel had put together, it looks like it would be Fishing Cove, Forest Park, Stony Lane, and DA that has less than full-time. Is that correct? Yes.
The only elementary school that has a full-time school psychologist is Quidesset.
According to this, it would be Hamilton would have one also.
Yes, I don't have it open in front of me.
Okay.
That's with 3. That plan was for 3 schools.
That was with 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was for 3 in my original proposal.
Okay.
I'd have to rework it for 2.
Okay. But the middle schools would both have a full-time one there?
No,
Okay.
They would be part-time at middle school.
no. We increased DMS this past year, 2 years ago, so that they have a full-time social worker, but then they share a school psychologist. And there's partial for both social workers and school psychologists that work for middle.
Okay.
With 3, they would get, yes, they both have full-time.
So adding 2 puts,
We'd have to determine, the greater need of what everyone's asking for, everyone's asking for more, but when you look at elementary, we have days because of team day where it's hard to get coverage. Like there is a school social worker and there is a school psychologist, but one may be in a meeting or things like that. If I have that additional one, then I can rearrange. It wouldn't be one going to 5 schools. I would just rearrange and configure where they're placed so that there's one extra day of coverage, which is essentially what they're asking for. They're asking for at least that in order to help out. So there's always someone available, a social worker and a school psychologist, in case there was an issue, and that there's not so much overlap.
Okay. And these are just random questions in no particular order. The special education teacher request, again, I understand the request. In looking through the justifications, it seemed like a lot of the time is being taken up in terms of IEP meetings and things like that, right? And documentation, and that's what the justification looked like to me. And I know that we had created the coordinator position to free the principals up from not having to attend the meetings. And I don't know whether this is possible, but would creating an admin type position?
No, because we're required to have a special educator of that child at the meeting. And you might be reading one justification. I wouldn't use that as the justification. I really think the problem specifically at Hamilton is the number of students, and they're spread across 5 grades.
Okay.
So we have 2 right now, and they're just spread across multiple classrooms, and they're spread a little bit too thin. And the caseload also has gotten much higher there. If you think about them being about the same size as DMS, they don't have nearly the amount of special educators as DMS to cover not quite the same number of kids.
Students, okay.
And you also have to be, I did not disaggregate the data regarding numbers of the caseloads because I would have to pull out how many are just speech only and things like that. So there are some that are just speech only kids, but then we have quite a few kids receiving reading, math, writing supports. And it's very hard for the teachers to get into the gen ed classroom to do a little more support in there because they have to do so much in getting all the services that are actually written in their IEPs done.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does, thank you.
Yeah.
The TAs, I know that this question has come up in terms of like the benefits over the salaries, Leslie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at this here, it's pretty striking that the benefit is actually higher than the salary cost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I am continually saying we need to abolish the substitute services, but would it be cheaper if we contracted these positions out?
Well, anytime you're contracting a position out, you're not paying for the benefit portion.
Right.
So obviously, yes.
Okay.
I know from a union perspective, that's not ideal
Yep.
because we want to have actual full-time employees in here for consistency and for a lot of other
Right.
reasons. But
They're pretty close in price though, Leslie.
what do you mean, in terms of,
The contractor workers are almost the same price as if we're paying for the full benefits because they're
One could
more
imagine they're
hourly.
paying benefits, so.
Right,
So
and then
there's
the
always
that
one
upcharge.
for it will
It's
generally
close.
come out, yes,
Okay.
but it's not, I mean, I don't think it would be
No
like a
appreciable
sweeping
savings.
change.
Okay.
And when you look at these, it is kind of startling to
Yep.
see that the salaries and the benefits are, but that is just because our benefits are very high.
Not very high.
They are very high. We did, with the last contract, we did increase a lot of the salaries for the ESP
Yep.
to get them to, a substantially higher rate, but the benefits have also increased
Yep.
at that same rate, if not higher. So the only way to change that is to have their contribution be more than
Yep.
the percentage that they have. It's the only way really to get it down.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to address that and put both options on the table. The early childhood coordinator, you mentioned the parts of the OFL positions that would be in the position by funding source. There is no, Leslie, that you had given us, there's no reference to the actual Title I coordinator anywhere. So what is happening to those responsibilities?
So first, to clarify, I did research why they were not pulling in the file, and when I pulled it, I pulled everything by pay code, which is a 500 for regular salaries. OFL has its own special pay code.
Okay.
So OFL did not pull in the report that I
Okay.
did because I didn't pull that pay code.
Gotcha.
So the early childhood coordinator, several other positions are all, they're all in existence.
They
They're
still
just
exist.
not in that.
In that file.
Yes, they're not
Okay.
in that file.
Okay.
But I actually have the file that I will attach.
Okay.
So I was able to pull that from Google.
discussion in the committee?
I just had two. One, I like the instructional coaches, but I just have a question. I still think there's a need in middle school. I think there's kids who get intervention or help in elementary, and then they go to middle school and they don't get it anymore due to, for whatever reason. So I was just curious if there's other stuff we're going to do too for the middle school kids, because I thought the instructional coaches was going to be for both for elementary and middle.
So,
when it was not there.
as far as intervention, so again, I went off of what requests came through to us from talking at the school levels, and no one, I'm just saying, did not come through as a request of adding into any positions like that at the middle school level from schools as a need. No, currently working, what we have in place. I hear your concern, but I just know that wasn't a request that came through. Right now, we're looking at the instructional coaches folks on the elementary level and working with curriculum coordinators we have, and then at the high school we have department heads that at each level that we can work with as far as what needs to be done at those levels. We're looking to focus at elementary, getting services and whatnot put through, because if you put a focus in at your elementary level, you should be able to meet what those needs are and intervene early, so that way, as you intervene early, you're giving the students what they need, so that way, as they are going through middle school, high school, you're not seeing as much
But
coming in.
I agree.
those kids are at the middle school now.
I
Yeah,
understand.
I think
so-
that, and I'm not surprised they didn't ask, because I think the way we have it set up now, they do have enough people, because whatever the STAR score is in elementary, you get help. That STAR score goes down in middle school, and so those kids who are getting help are no longer getting help. And I think that, I said it to Rob, I think we're missing that. And I don't think the principals are going to be doing the analysis to even notice it, because they feel like they have enough based on what we're telling them who needs the support, versus us looking at really who needs the support.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the interventionist piece, it's important to distinguish that between the coaches and the interventionists. I think it's important to make that there are differences in terms of what their focus is. So the instructional coaches are really focused on building the capacity of teachers to bring forward high quality instructional practices across the board, like an aligned system. So they work really across the district at that, at assisting teachers with that practice. With the interventions piece, you're right. It's more looking at who are students, identifying them, who are in need of extra supports during the school day, and making that happen. There are ways the middle school schedule allows a little more flexibility than the elementary school schedule with doing that. To your point, I agree with you, but I think we can work within the middle school schedule.
Okay, I just want to
do
know
think
that
we
we're...
can do that with a little more flexibility than we can for the elementary schedule, where the time is a lot more difficult to find.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think kids can go during PLT, but I think we don't have a structure where I think there's kids who are going to ask will go, but there's tons of kids who I think do not. So
And that's the thing that we have to work on, I think.
Yeah. And then my other thing I want to ask, what happens if we can't figure out at DMS about the Spanish teacher? I feel like that should have been a top priority, just because, it's not their fault they're in this big class.
Right.
And I don't want any kids missing out taking Spanish because we don't have a teacher.
And that's exactly the conversation I had with Mrs. Marr. We can't be in a situation where now we have to pick and choose who gets Spanish over who doesn't get Spanish.
Yeah, I guess
So
I just want to make sure we weren't going to do that.
Yeah, nope, that is not happening. And we talked about that. We might, if we don't add, if we can't find either reallocating a resource from somewhere else in the district for scheduling or add it in, then the other option, or not option, but what the predicament would be under is now we have to look at, okay, well, who can take Spanish and who can't. And that's an equity issue. If we're offering Spanish as a class at the 8th grade level for everyone to take, then we need to make sure that we can provide that.
Yeah.
I think what Sherry...
What I'm saying, we are continuing to look at that, right? And look at scheduling. We're going to look and see also, do we have any other resources throughout the district that we can move? And I say, if there are teachers at high school, right?
To go to the middle school and teach.
Right.
I guess I mean is, but what if there is no one?
If
Then
there is
what
no one, then we have to put it in the budget.
Okay, like
So
I just wanted to make sure we were doing it.
We'd have to look at making a switch somewhere,
I
right?
wonder
Because
though-
I can't run a program without having a teacher there.
So I would rather build something in and then not need it than not build something
Yes,
in.
that's
and then
kinda what
need
I'm
it.
saying.
So I would need to know like the level of confidence that you have in your alternate plan.
And so so we have a meeting next week.
Yeah.
So my plan is to have an answer by Tuesday. If it's either I need to add a 0.5 position to the budget,
Yeah.
or, we know by scheduling, we can make a shift.
And so you feel confident you'll either
I know I
have
can
a
figure it
yay
out
or
by
nay
next
by
Tuesday.
next week?
So I'm going to ask another crazy question. Could we have a high school teacher go to the middle school if it's not, like their position is a high school teacher, not a middle school teacher? I guess that's my
So
question.
certification-wise, yes, you can do
Yeah.
that. I need to see scheduling-wise if that would work.
Okay, I was also thinking
You-
teacher
you-
union-wise,
yeah.
to be honest, more of
There
that.
might be.
Well,
Like if someone's
what-
a
so
teacher
what
at the
we-
high school, isn't that their position,
So-
not the middle school, which is,
Not necessarily, because when we go through and we say we need to make
Finish one
changes,
is finish one.
where,
Okay.
we.
you can. I
Yes,
just,
we got to cut a position at the high school to put the position, or we have to say, well, we don't need a full-time position there, it needs to be a point.
And,
Oh,
and just
okay,
for
I got it.
clarification, the 8th grade Spanish class is a high school class.
Yeah, it's a Spanish one. Spanish one is Spanish
Okay.
one.
It's high school.
Yeah.
so then.
And this is a
technically-
bubble year, so like we need it for next year, but we may not need it the year after.
No, I know, I think that class
Yeah.
is very big.
Yep. I do think though, to Sherry's point about kind of that like in between class that will, like the incoming sixth graders, like next year's sixth graders are the COVID kindergartners, and so the data has not shown that they have fully recovered from like that grade seems to be hitting some additional need, and so I do think Sherry's point is valid about thinking about what we might need for them as they transition into middle school. I do not anticipate it being the smoothest 5th grade to 6th grade transition ever, just because of how they entered the district and kind of what we've been seeing. So just something I think we should keep an eye on. Not to say that we need to change the plan for FY27, but I do have concerns about like that group and kind of how they'll be able to function without those interventions. Because they've always had it, I guess would be what I would say. But it hasn't, I don't think they've caught up fully. Okay, other questions?
I lied, I had two more. Can I go before you, Megan? Get
Oh, I don't have any
Oh,
questions.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of questions later on.
Okay. I just was wondering, the TAs for QUID for the Intensive Resource Program, what was the reasoning for not bringing any of those forward?
So in just trying to prioritize where we can put resources, I also looked at how many other resources they have in the building. And can we adjust like what they currently have in supporting the students?
And so that need will be filled or unfilled?
Well, looking at how else we can do it without hiring another person.
Okay. I didn't hear that filled or unfilled part though, like.
Well,
Unfilled. The answer is unfilled.
right,
but
not bringing in another TA,
Yes.
right? But do we have other resources that we could use?
What could that, what does that mean, Ken, in
Right,
civilian?
so
Yeah.
can we look at the special ed teachers that we have, right? Looking at their caseloads, looking at what those needs might be. What are the other TAs in the building doing?
I do think specifically for me, QUID is so off the charts when we're looking at every single possible metric, whether it be discipline, whether it be RICAS scores, whether it be, that does concern me that they're asking for something to help support their building, and that we know quantifiably there is some work to be done there. That does make me nervous.
We do, but I don't know if it's just adding more staff. I mean, look at that building. They have more interventionists, they have full-time social worker, full-time psychologists. I know the need is there, but is it always just adding more people, or do we need to look at how we're doing things differently?
Okay.
I read things like academic disparity and inaccessible curriculum, and it concerns me a little that was not put forward. So if you feel confident that you can address it in other ways, then, and then my really last question on this was
Nobody believes it.
the financial piece, and this has been a common theme. I think back to Frank making this recommendation. Like, I have no doubt that the need is there. I am asking, though, whether any of those roles can be outsourced.
For
like
which
payroll,
ones?
and is there anything in the finance department that can be not done here that would be efficient, helpful, anything? Not like a now decision, but just
Right.
like as we
I'm
look
going to look
towards.
at Leslie for that.
That's fine. That's fine. So we are in the very beginning stages of starting to research outsourcing payroll. From a personal perspective, I have worked at other places, school districts, where it has been outsourced, and I have brought it in-house because it is less expensive and it is easier to actually handle the types of payroll that we do. It's very, very specific and very complicated,
Okay.
and a lot of places don't outsource it well. And so there's still just as much work as you're doing in-house
And you're paying some.
for it to
paying
get there,
somebody,
and
yeah.
it costs a lot of money. That being said, there are plenty of districts that do outsource it. So, like, what are they doing? How are they doing it? How are they making it work? So we're kind of starting that process
Okay.
to investigate, to see. There are considerations that come with that. I mean, our payroll clerk is a union position, so if we outsource it, then we have a union position that we wouldn't be filling. In terms of the other types of things that we need with those positions, they're not really things that can be outsourced. Because by the time you outsource them and you have a person who's now learned and understood what needs to be done, they're pretty much a full-time employee at that
Okay.
point. It's really getting in and understanding the grants, how they work, how they are all intertwined, how they work with payroll, and all of the financial reports that come with the projecting of them, and the monitoring, and all of the now reporting that has to go to RIDE. It's fairly complicated. I'm absolutely sure that there are services out there that would have individuals that are competent and could certainly
Yeah.
do it. I don't know if it would necessarily be more cost effective
Okay.
at the end of the day
Yep.
to get someone with those qualifications to be able to do that work.
Okay,
So,
Leslie says no.
okay, yeah, no, that's
I'm
just-
not saying no to
Yeah.
anything. I'm happy to investigate.
Okay.
No, I think that's
Just
valid.
putting it out
Yeah,
there,
that's
yeah.
helpful for that context. And then I think it's worth the investigation, but also like,
Yeah, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's not necessarily like, you
I
know,
don't think it would be
yeah.
a hell yeah. I would love it to be,
okay.
because it would make my budget.
Other questions? Okay, so today we have added $1.1 million-ish to our budget.
No, like 5 and change.
5 and change, because they took it.
Yeah, sure, okay. 5 and change, for fun.
566, 339.
So, do we have a new,
That's the part that we are.
we're not there yet.
We are not
Okay.
there yet.
So,
So this,
What we really focused on and prioritized in the time between our budget workshops is looking at the priorities. I know.
No,
getting
it's
down
okay, I
the
just wanted to
recommendations,
see
Figuring
where-
out what monetarily that looked like, so that we knew, like, what kind of work do we need to do going back to this budget? Because we already know we have areas that we have to cut just in general
yeah,
to get us to a place where we feel comfortable and are able to present that. So then
Yeah.
to now work in this, now we have a number to work with. So
Yeah.
now I think, he and I are going to go back to the table, we're going to sharpen our pencils, and we're going to,
yeah.
know,
While
really get to
we're,
work on it.
while we're on personnel, I know you had provided us some information about like where some of the like budgets fell in a positive way last year, and some of that was personnel.
Mhm.
I think it was about 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious with that, like, was that all vacancy funds? Was it how did that number seems high
Mhm.
for where we are as staffing and whatnot. And so I was curious for more maybe explanation on that area when we're looking at overall trying to add in another 500,
Mhm.
but we had 800 last year that didn't get spent. So and I know it's not apples to apples, but
Mhm.
that was kind of where my brain was going as far as like need and making sure that we're being accurate with our estimate of what we needed for staff money.
So I would love to have a little extra time just to dig in, so I can give you
Mhm.
like a very thoughtful answer on that. I do know that we had a lot of like breakage areas, and we did have vacancies that contributed to a significant amount of it, but I would prefer to be able to go through and actually give you an exact breakout of it, so that I could tell you, where the areas are. I will say that I do think that we have some work to do with how our salaries are budgeted. And I've been spending a lot of time kind of going through the process and how we do it and trying to compare it to where we're sitting right now, like projections to see, like, is what we did last year going to make a difference? Are we not going to see this problem? And if so, are we confident in how we're budgeting this year? I am still working through
Okay.
the
Yeah, because
process.
I think that helps because I think, you know, when thinking especially about breakage, like making sure that we're not unintentionally budgeting, not considering the breakage from the year prior, you know, like as we're carrying things over and whatnot, like I just want to make sure that we're as tight as possible because that is something we should be able to predict, like with some certainty because of the FTs and stuff. So thank you for continuing to dig into that a little bit more.
So I know you said last night that there was an issue with
Yes.
Eunice and you weren't able to like put together the year-to-date plus the projections.
What
Correct.
did Eunice do to you?
Eunice didn't work for me for almost a week.
Because of us or because of Eunice?
Because of me.
Chaz?
Nope. No, that's what, so we had some issues and we ended up, we were doing some just normal year-end processes, getting ready for W-2s and doing things like that, and Eunice locked up on us, and the only way we could get back in was to do a full restore. Yes, and the full restore took us from, when were we out, Wednesday at midnight, and we couldn't get back in until the Monday of the long weekend. And then we had to go back in and we had to redo the days that we lost from the restore, and then we had payroll and we had W-2s. So those were 100% my priority, was making sure that that didn't affect people getting paid or getting their W-2s on time. So it was a very fun week.
I'm just going to state the obvious here, that we are not going to be ready to vote next week. I just want to put that on the table. Because we need to have, and I know we talked about this last night, like some type of like projection on where we're going to. We've got to carve out.
We'll hit timeline before we.
Yeah, so I just want to
Yep.
put that on the
I think
table.
we have a tentative meeting, I think, built in.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't. I thought
Yeah,
we-
this is your tentative.
This is
This is the
one.
tentative meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to circle back on that.
Just want to.
Let's keep going for a little bit more within the actual CACA, and then we'll circle up on how abysmal it is. Okay, so other questions about personnel? Do we have thoughts on that, et cetera? I would love if we could get the actual number for increasing, or at least bringing our pre-K back up to what we used to offer for the district. I know Ken had said it was about $200,000 plus others, but I'd be curious to know with the tuition offset what that actual number would be.
Sure. So in one of the
I'll put it
documents
in
that's been
the-
supplemental, which was an answer to one of the questions that came in
Yeah.
from the last budget meeting, we have a
Is it in
detailed
there?
breakdown of what the cost would be. I think we did it for 2 classrooms, not 1.
Okay.
Because I think the question was for 2 classrooms, and then for tuition, if we have 16 seats, it's $200 a month times 10 months, so it's 2,000 times 16, so 32,000. 32,000 would be the revenue offset.
If they all.
And
If they're all
yeah.
full paying, if they're not, so some of them
Yeah.
could be reduced if they
Yep.
have free and reduced lunch, but if it was a full tuition,
Yep.
the max would be 32,000.
Why do we charge what we charge?
We base that off of what other public preschool programs are charging. We look across the state,
Okay.
so we
So
stay
they're
within
all
range.
charging way less than what regular. what
Around,
other
they're,
pre-K
they're
requests.
around there.
There are, and I believe
Many have now gone to free.
we're relatively in line. One of my recommendations, I think, in one of the first
Okay, don't
presentations I had was
telling you.
we
I
should
know.
consider raising our tuition if we want to.
Or we could make it free, one or the other. We could swing either way, apparently.
My recommendation
Well, I'm
was
just
to
saying,
raise
here's
tuition.
where I'm going with this. And I totally understand that, how it's hard to make it a priority. But what I've heard, I think Dr. Santa and other people say, is the more that we invest in our pre-K in this town, the longer benefits it can have for us long-term, because we're bringing the students in, they're getting the services they need, and then hopefully that will set them up for success. Since I've been school committee chair, we've decreased the amount of students that we're serving, which was already not a very high number, and that makes me sad. But also, like, these families a lot of them are sending their kids to pre-K somewhere. And so, like, thinking about, like, if we increased our costs, like, figuring out, like, what we could increase it to try to help make it manageable for us to be able to offer it. Because whether you're spending the money in North Kingstown School Department, or you're spending the money at Sunshine, or you're spending the money at wherever, like, most of these kids a lot of these kids I think are going somewhere. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out, of like, what our threshold would be to be able to offer it within the district so that they also can get the benefits of, our exceptional program. So that's where my thought process is going on that chaos, but here we are.
And maybe do we ever look to like, do we know like what percentage of kids don't go to preschool that come in?
I won't be able to tell you. I can't tell you that off the.
No, I didn't mean off the. I meant do we? Maybe it's analysis to do
We
too.
should have, we
Like,
have that data somewhere.
like, and are we
Can I talk
missing?
to-
Maybe we are missing kids that can't
So-
afford to go
Rachel,
anywhere
just
This
else.
is-
come to
yeah,
the mic.
so
and
this
have
is
a
Only
my
if
discussion.
Chaz says, Chaz, is that picking up Rachel when she sits there?
I'm pretty loud.
Yeah, you can, you don't
All
have to
right.
stand if you
So
don't want to.
this is my concern is, listen, everything that I put in, I would love to have, but I said to Kenny, it's the only time on the entire curve I actually put in everything I thought we needed to really make the district grow, right? But I knew, budgetarily that it was a joke. There's no way that you can afford to put all those things in. And it's really more like a 3 to 5 year plan. If you're asking me if I think our very first priority is to add to preschool, no, it is. I don't think that's our first priority. Would I love it? 100%. Do I think we need it? 100%. But I think that the current needs of the kids that we currently have in school, I don't feel that we're doing our very best job. I think we're doing a good job, but I don't think we're doing our very best job. And that would mean adding the school psychologists, adding in the special educators that we need so that we're getting the right specially designed instruction in. And what I said to Kenny, what I'll say here is, I would prefer that we do a better job of the kids we have before we start adding more, if I have to make a priority list.
Yeah, and I'm not
If that makes
advocating for, you know how I feel about school
Yeah,
psychologists and
I
social
know.
workers.
I know you do.
I think we need to get to what the standards are, and we are very far from that. I'm trying to figure out a way that we can do both.
Both, yeah.
Because I'm not asking us to add pre-K, I'm asking us to get back to where we were a couple of years ago. Because since then, we've reduced the amount of peer students that are in our
Correct.
programs and whatnot. So I'm not even being like grandiose. I'm just trying to get us back to where we were a couple of years
No,
ago.
and-
And so it's not, and I'm not saying in lieu of a school psychologist, I'm saying what can we do to figure out a solution that maybe we could.
I would love
serve
it
our
all.
students,
I mean, I
so.
would love to have it all, and we could support it all. That's not really the issue. And if you think back, the reason why we reduced is because the intense needs of the kids coming up. They were not doing great in a integrated classroom. So that's why we had to reduce.
Oh, I'm not
my
saying it was
first
for a good
choice
reason,
either,
but also.
based on what we were receiving and what we have to program for, and the tremendous amount of needs.
So how are
it was the
districts?
best solution at the time.
How are districts offering it for free then?
I don't know
Who
how they're
offers it
offering
for
it free,
free?
because I was actually surprised about some of them. I know for a fact Cumberland is now offering it for free. The reason why I was surprised, I worked there before, and they have significantly more budget issues than we have here, like significantly more.
Are there any others?
Yeah, there are. I'd have to go back and look at the list. I don't want to
Great.
say publicly the ones and then be wrong,
No, no worries.
but there's several.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Other thoughts, questions about personnel? Okay, so where do we want to go now? Do we want to go to the enterprise ones?
I would say,
and then,
yeah, we can move to the enterprise accounts,
Yeah.
and we can go back to any questions anyone has.
well, and we also need to start thinking about, we're supposed to vote on this budget at the next meeting, so we have to think about kind of like how we're gonna get there from a like reduction standpoint, so, okay. Is there, what do you all want us to look at, I guess?
Who wants to
Maybe
go
what is
first?
No, I'm just.
Can we just go
What-
by
what's-
order?
Yeah, we-
There, that's all.
it? We have some.
I would say, I think we could do the three,
We'll do computer repairs, gate receipts, and then
yeah, we'll do the
music.
three enterprise accounts that are pretty straightforward this year. I think they're pretty straightforward.
Never say that.
And then we'll go into nutrition, which is significantly more time consuming. So we'll start with computer repair. So last year, one of the goals that we had in several of our enterprise accounts was to try and spend down some of the funds that we had there that have been kind of sitting there for a while. And I know there, for different reasons, predating probably most of us here, those dollars weren't being used, they weren't accessible. So we decided to change that and try and use that, one, to kind of help us with the operating budget last year, but to also spend down the accounts. So computer repairs was one of those accounts, and we were successful in spending that down. We had 3 different items that were in or that came out of that account. So we had admin laptops that we had assigned to that account. We had the unicorn server, and then we had a second server that was in there as well. And so if you look at year-to-date fiscal 26, you can see that we have that spend. So we have the technology-related supplies, which we talked about during the operating, the first round of the operating budget, where we are going to have the actual supplies that we use for Chromebooks that we're using to repair them coming out of this account. So that is what you see there. Then you'll see the 53,615. That is the amount. It's actually a little bit less than what we had budgeted as part of the spend down. So originally we had, like I said, the 2 servers and the admin laptops for a total of 58,500. When all was said and done, everything's been purchased, it came out to be 53,615. So we had a little bit of savings just in what we had purchased, but we did do the spend down. So at the end of this year, based on the dollars that we believe are going to come in just from the fees that we charge and then account for the insurance, our adjusted fund balance will be somewhere around 8,000. For next year, I'm putting in the budget of $20,000. That is, again, just for the Chromebook repair. So it's going to be what the purpose of the enterprise fund, and that's what it is. So the budget, with the same amount, we anticipate roughly the same amount coming in. So it should be a little bit of a wash. We'll have the 15% of that $20,000 that we anticipate coming in, which is about $3,000. So we would end fiscal 27 somewhere around $5,000 in a perfect world. So I don't suggest using this account for anything else other than those repairs. And I feel like, like I said, we were successful in the spend down, and I think we don't want to get it so far down that for any reason we don't have an offset, we don't have any wiggle room. I know that Chaz is really good about keeping the spending within budget and within range. This year, I think it was a little bit higher. We just had some significant things that we had to do. But if we look kind of like year over year, I feel comfortable with the $20,000. I think we can stay within that.
That was going to be my one question. Like, if like every single kid breaks their Chromebook and this ends up being like $80,000, where would that difference come from?
So that therein lies the problem of the spend down. It is that obviously it needs to be self-sustaining. So I think one of the things that we had talked about, I don't know, Chaz, if you want to speak, is that just talking more about actually, getting people to utilize and purchase the insurance more so than what we have now. Do you want to speak to this?
Sure.
We did talk about it, and I don't want to misspeak at all.
No, that's fine. One of the things for sure that we didn't do always perfectly in the past was communicate how available this is to people in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
So we already have stuff scheduled to go for that. That should help.
Okay.
And then we get a lot of people last minute who are like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know this was a thing. Can I get it now?" And
How many folks do you know off the top of your head? How many folks opt into the insurance?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get the answer though.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
can
great.
absolutely get it. It's always been a pretty decent amount, and it's helped immensely cover a lot of these.
So they don't opt into the insurance. Do the parents have to, if the kid broke their Chromebook, are the parents paying for a new, like how does that all work for the people who don't purchase the insurance, I guess?
We do typically bill for certain materials.
Okay.
So if honestly, it's usually only if we can see a provable, they intentionally damaged it often. If it's something that's normal wear in use, I struggle to bill them for that because we're asking them to use it and they're using it. But if it's clearly negligent or intentional damage, we do bill it. Now, realistically, actually, insurance or not, we actually do still bill for that. If it's insurance too, I mean, if it's more than one offense.
Okay.
But one of the things, I mean, I think we were being conservative here with the 20 and 20, but we talked about ways that we could try and increase the insurance, which would then make the revenue higher than what it is, what is showing here. But since we haven't really actively done any of those things, we don't know how well it's going to work, so we don't want to put in some crazy number, and that's not realistic.
The answer to Jen is if we had 80,000, then Chaz would be like scraping scraps of Chromebooks to try to fix the Chromebooks, and our kids would have whack Chromebooks. That's the answer.
If everybody broke the Chromebook, I have
Yeah.
a genuinely larger question to the world.
How did that happen?
But no, to be 20 is about though pretty close to what we end up averaging. And thankfully, what we do, honestly, so when we have Chromebooks left over too from a year, if we do have an extra from like a senior turn-in or whatnot, and part of that we hold on to for these purposes because you do some years that are worse than others, but and we do lean on some of those, but we've thankfully always been in a pretty good spot. And even I think going to like the Chromebook insurance, if we wanted to increase the price of Chromebook insurance, a small increase might go a long way. $5 is to an individual is not that much, especially considering how things are only going up for us as well, having to buy the parts.
How much is it currently?
25.
So it has not gone up in forever.
We haven't touched it in a while,
Yeah.
and we're trying to be careful about that because the point of it is we want to make this so that way parents and families who don't have a lot of money can very easily get and not have to worry about it for the year. But certain components are only going up, so that's what we're exploring. Can $5 or $10 to the person might not be a big deal, thankfully, but to us as a whole, if we get enough people, we'll make a substantial increase.
And then it would be interesting what percentage of students, because even increasing the percent could also get us more money.
So, are you looking at that for FY28? Because we're looking to approve FY27. So either we need to know that we're increasing it or not now.
So in terms
Not today, but like.
I think our goal was to be conservative for FY27
Yeah.
with what we know, it's a known entity, and then use like.
I heard we were going to try to be better about advertising the insurance, letting people know
do
early,
that
try
for
to
fiscal
increase that
27.
piece.
So things that we know we can do for fiscal 27 that are not a financial impact to families.
Yeah.
And that if we feel
And
that that is
possibly
not
consider
necessarily
it for
gonna work.
FY28.
Correct.
Extra $5 or whatever.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
That
so
was the
this
goal.
is what we're talking about for this year. Is what we're talking about for this year.
Yes. And one thing that I just want to point out too, so like we've put our revenue kind of as what we've received year to date for this, because at this point people have usually already purchased and all that stuff. But that number can increase. So if you look at what we got in fiscal 25, what we ended the year at like 19,000 for revenue. Right now we're only projecting 16.4. That number could go up, which if it does is going to change really just kind of what our adjusted fund balance is, what that bottom line is. So we'll be tracking that. We're obviously not going to get any less, but if we do get more, it's just going to give us a little bit more of a cushion. But we don't anticipate changing any of the budget numbers.
We might just have more money.
Yeah, we might just have more of a cushion.
There's usually right at the end of the year is when people realize they have open invoices for things that they haven't paid for, and do it as well right at the end of the school year.
That was a question that I had. So it said that that line about bad debt expense, like every single person we charge pays their stuff. Like we never have to write off like bad debt on my school bucks or whatever.
No, we do.
But like, what's that line then?
But that's just your computers.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, so they all have it. There are some audit requirements for enterprise accounts that if you have a substantial amount, like over a certain threshold, like the operating fund has to pay for it.
Yep.
If you have it, depending on how it's recorded, we usually only see it in nutrition, not in any of the other enterprise accounts.
So, but like, so you charge a parent $20 in my school bucks, and they never pay it. Where does that get accounted for?
Depending on if it's under the threshold, if it's above the threshold, you'd see it in bad debt.
Yeah.
We've never had anything above the threshold in computer repair.
So it isn't recorded anywhere until it hits a certain threshold. Fun. Okay. Any other questions regarding the computer repair enterprise account?
And the only way to sign up for that insurance is through My School Bucks, right?
There's usually instructions right in the email, but you can do it through My School Bucks, and some people who can't, if they reach out to the department, we'll walk them through it. We'll get it to them one way or other. So if people reach out, we absolutely will make sure they get it.
Because is that the only thing we use that app for now? The My School Bucks app?
Nutrition? I feel like
No,
it was-
the nutrition went to a different
nutrition went
one.
to-
Nutrition is a
Yeah.
different one, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually moving off of it is a separate project in itself,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm
Are we
Because,
paying
that's
for
how
it?
we use it.
Are we paying for it? A fee for my school bucks in addition to
no,
school cafe?
they basically just, it's the processing fee or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
So it's not
nothing
costing
that
us
is
money
to
to
us
have
in this
to
No.
just annoyance by parents.
But no, and that was one of the considerations when we were switching the nutrition was, are we going to end up having to pay for two platforms?
Yep.
And we did not have.
Okay.
So.
Other questions about this one? All right, let's move on. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to do So I'm going to do my best here because I don't have 4 gate receipts and musical. I don't have any other individuals here for it, but I am fairly confident I can go through and answer any questions that you have. But if not, I will just jot them down and get back to you if I can't
I
answer.
will help where I can.
All right.
Okay, so 4 gate receipts.
Oh, wait, okay, sorry.
Just that we have
I
a different
opened
order.
Musical was next.
Oh,
Nope, we
That's
can do
okay. We can move.
I'm there.
It's got
Okay, so gate receipts. We had a similar situation. We were doing a spend down, so we did move $30,000 from the operating budget to gate receipts in fiscal 26, and we have spent all that, and that was for uniforms. So in fiscal 26, we have satisfied that and have completely spent down. The revenue that we are hoping to get for this year, for fiscal 26, is $35,000. We are on track for that right now, and we are anticipating lower for 27. So if you, I know it's kind of all over the map, but I think we budgeted high in 26 because we were anticipating that we would have to get more revenue because we were using GoFan. But as we're watching it and as we're looking at it, I think that it really hasn't changed much. It hasn't made it easier, and people are more willing to do it and garnering more payments. So I have reduced our revenue for 27 back down to in line to where I think it will fall.
This is very anecdotal, but I was at a game the other day, and I think what GoFan was not working, and so every person that went to that game did not pay. And so I'm curious if we're having technical issues with that process that might be causing the reduced revenue.
Thank you for sharing that, because that is the first I am hearing.
Was it that they couldn't just access it through the QR code, or the actual site was not working?
I do not know.
All right, we'll ask about
Yeah.
it. We'll find out just to see.
Yeah, and I would not have brought it up if you had not said we were seeing reduction in revenue.
So that's
yeah,
the
but
thing
so
I do.
I'm
always
curious if
monitoring
that's
and
a
looking at
challenge.
And I
It
do
also
know-
seems like there wasn't, for lack of a better word, like staff to
Monitor
do that.
Who's going in and out?
Yeah, just because like before when you were collecting cash, somebody had to be there. Now, I don't
All it
know.
says is a sign on the table.
Yeah, and people were trying very hard, but it did not seem to be successful. So just something to think about when we're looking at auditing.
I think that's very important because in terms of actual dollars, we're not seeing necessarily a reduction in our revenue, just not as high as we had anticipated with the change to GoFan. So we had raised what we expected the revenue to be, and I don't think that we're gonna hit that. But we're still in line to where we have been in prior years, if we're looking at years.
So you thought GoFan we were going to see
We
an
thought we were
increase
going
of
to
more
see an
people
increase,
paying.
and so when we were working on the budget last year, we increased our revenue expectations. But I think we're going to be in line. So for fiscal 27,
You brought it back down.
I brought it back down to 28,000 because I thought that was more realistic. But hearing what I'm hearing,
And that was very anecdotal. I would just like that was one. So just know that.
okay.
But I do know even like this year, they didn't charge for Soccer Fest, which I thought was because it was when in the past they did. Which that would be a ton, but there's a lot of kids who go to that.
So we don't charge kids.
We don't, but there was adult. Like I just meant,
Yeah,
if I wonder if there was a couple other things we just didn't
we'll find out.
chart,
See
you
if
know,
there's any-
because
I'm
maybe
sure
it
you
was-
could write a nice report. Okay, good job. Any questions about this one?
Oh, well,
Sorry.
nope, there's just a couple of things I want to point out. So you can see we still have a fairly large balance in here, but there were items that Mr. Tolbert had asked for that were not operational that I think were items that we could put in here during budget discussion. So one of them was the sound system. Originally, he had said 15,000, but I think it might be higher than that. I think we would need to investigate it a little bit deeper. This was just from budget conversations, but I definitely know gate receipts could support that, and I think that it's something that is needed. And he's asked for it for the last few years. So since we do still have around $70,000 in that account, I think that that's something that we should consider. So I did add that as a recommended spend down. Additionally, he had asked for storage containers similar to the ones that we currently have now. And Dr. Duva, I don't know if you can speak to them a little better than I can, but these are like the large storage containers that they have outside the field that they keep all the equipment in. And so I think overall there was like 8 that he would need over time, but considering like an immediate need, we could probably get 2 or 3, and that would be around $20,000. And this would keep them in line with the storage units that are already there, so they would be uniformity, they would look the same. And I think that gate receipts can support that. So we obviously have to go out to RFP for both of these things. But approximate costs there. So I would just like to put it forward as a recommendation as part of another spend down for fiscal 27.
I know Dave came in to talk about the sound system. Didn't he come in with an RFP, or was he just talking about an RFP?
Don't believe we said we put up RFP out.
I don't think we did. I think there was investigation as to
I never saw anything.
if we needed to go out to RFP or if we needed to use the people who deal with our current sound
You
system.
can do a single source, but
Yeah,
that's still a process.
But I think the ultimate decision was that it wouldn't matter because it would need to be replaced, and so we didn't have to use the same vendor if we didn't want. So then it would go out to RFP. But I don't think we actually got that far.
Okay. My question while we're on this one is something that had come up previously earlier this year was about softball field dugouts. And at the time that it had come up, it was like last fiscal year. I think I'm losing track of my fiscal years. And we had some money allocated left over from from what we had voted. I think we're of the fiscal year now, so that money has gone away. But we had also talked about that there was potential additional funds from gate receipts. And so it would appear that there still are, and I just want to reiterate that ball is in their court to use that pun because we were waiting for them to bring an RFP forward for that also. So that's where that lives in case anybody's wondering.
For the dugouts for the softball field.
Okay, and again, what I put forward here are just some of the recommendations that Mr. Tober gave me during our budget meeting. There were some other things he had, but those fell more in line with different things that we had in capital improvement, so I did not include them here because they were covered elsewhere. But I can certainly look into that, the dugouts.
Other questions on the gate receipts? I think you probably already said this. We spent everything that we said we were going to spend this year, right?
We did.
Okay.
We did, and then that $30,000 is now back in the operating budget for fiscal 27.
Yep.
So, but we did spend down all of the money for the uniforms.
Okay.
I have one more question. Is there any way that we can, kind of similar to what we're doing with the computer and the repair and everything, have any of the ref or officiating fees just automatically come out of this account versus coming out of the operating budget?
Say that question again. Sorry.
Ref fees. Can we
Ref
put the
fees
ref
come
fees,
out
like
of-
a percentage of the ref fees
Come
come
out of
this?
the gate receipts? I don't think so.
I
Don't
don't
think the
know. I
refs
don't want
came
to say
from
yes or no because I really don't know if there are like specific rules around that. But let me.
Because
look
I mean,
into
it's a not unsubstantial
Andrew,
amount
do you
of
know
money
where-
every year.
like,
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's
that's right. And
yeah.
if we
Where
were
would that
able
be,
to
like, for us
turn
to
it
be able to
over
figure
from
out
this,
what's
that's one
allowed
less
or
thing
not
out of the
allowed?
operating budget.
I think that needs to be disclosed.
I don't know, right on here. I write anything. We're
Let-
gonna have Andrew look into the legal part of that
yeah,
question.
because I don't want to
Right, 'cause
Yeah,
if it's
just-
say
not-
something and have it.
Yeah, just putting it
Yeah,
out
that's
there.
why, that's what
yeah.
needs it.
Yeah.
Andrew, not right now, but that would be just something I think we should look into, just to make sure we know what's, where that is coming from. Okay, other questions on this one?
No, but it's funny, we actually do on this line 21 say officials, referees, high school.
Yeah, I actually have my cursor on that one too. Like,
Right? So
I
it's
mean,
so I'm laughing
keep in
at
mind
some
there are
point.
UCOA codes for everything under the sun. It doesn't necessarily mean
Legally.
that we should.
Legally, we should have done it. Okay. It was just funny that I saw that it was.
All right, let's move on to musical, choir, and orchestra.
Okay. So this one, you'll notice, is set up a little bit differently, and just for a reason. It's just because of how the musical falls, because everything happens at one time, and it hasn't happened yet in this year, so we have absolutely no reference for fiscal 26 yet and how we are matching to that budget, because nothing has happened for fiscal 26. But what we did do based on the recommendations from the committee last year is in fiscal 26 we did have an actual budget, so the musical director did put together, and so you will see a 26 budget in here for each of the items with their anticipated revenue, and then did the same exercise again just based off of some changes that they know are going to happen in fiscal 27. So we do have like a full budget that they've put together, and I know this is really kind of the first time that we've ever done that for the musical. Since putting this budget together, one thing I do want to point out, and it doesn't really impact fiscal 27, but I do want to point it out, is that I've learned from Dr. Duva that we are not running
I knew what you were going to say.
the same amount of shows that we have. I was not aware of that. And so,
Better jack those ticket prices up.
well, I from my understanding, that has happened.
It has. So I've been talking with them just to figure this out. So in the past, they ran their shows for 2 weekends, 3 shows each weekend, so a total of 6. This year, when they went and purchased the license for the show, they had to shorten the time frame of their performances because of All-State Music. All-State Music, which is the competition that a lot of our students perform in, participate in, or also part of the musical, is earlier this year. And so it interferes with the similar weekend time frame of when we do the musical. So they had to make a decision to do the musical for only 1 weekend this year, but there are 4 shows. So we have 2 less shows, which means that's 2 less shows to bring in revenue. They did increase the tickets. I'm not sure what that will do. Obviously a little bit more will come in, but we're not going to be selling the same amount of tickets, and will we sell the same amount with the increase of costs on there. They are trying to do as much fundraising as they can, and bringing in, other revenue for the program. But I think we just need to know that $45,000 that we anticipated from last year when we put this budget probably won't be $45,000 because we have 2 less shows to bring in revenue for. So.
I'm glad you said that about the ticket price, because I bought my tickets this weekend online, and I was
I think
like,
they're $20
I was
now.
like, oh, I don't remember them being that much money.
Yeah, they did. So she did increase it because of that,
Yeah.
but
They-
not sure how much that's really going to
They
help
already-
because.
Well,
What was that?
So
I said another way that you could do that is reducing your spending or fundraising.
Yes, and
So many
and I know they are. They are.
I just want to
looking-
make sure we don't end up in the same place where we have.
Yeah, no, I know
And this is why I
that
brought it up.
that they have looked at how they're getting their costumes this year. They are looking at those areas of how they can be a little more cost effective. So,
well, and
All right.
what I presented to Ms. Finkelstein is the fact that with having 2 less shows, the costs for all of the items, I would expect to see a reduction, and I would like them to adjust the budget accordingly, because we shouldn't have to rent equipment for as long. We shouldn't need the costumes for as long of a time. Different musicians and things, people that we're paying to do 6 shows, we should only be paying for 4 shows.
Yep.
So I expect that there should be a reduction in the cost as well. So again, this is information that I have only recently learned, and in those conversations, she's going to go back to the advisor for the musical to adjust the budget to determine what she thinks her revenue feasibly will be, and then to adjust the budget allocations accordingly so that we stay in budget, because we don't really have any wiggle room to offset them again. So should they go over budget, we've already reallocated money from the capital reserve to this account. There's not much more to give if we have an issue. So the expectation is they're going to have to, since the musical hasn't happened yet, they have time to prepare to figure out how to adjust that budget and make it work.
I think they've been advertising good though, like saying it's only 1 weekend, so get your tickets. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like.
And there is a fundraiser next weekend,
Yes.
so hopefully that will bring in.
But in terms of what we're presenting for the budget for 27, the anticipation is they would go back to having the 6 shows. So that revenue, they're anticipating the revenue that it would have been for 6 shows for fiscal 27. So if we're looking at that budget, that's based on a normal runtime with normal expenses.
And I would just say if we find that out, that should be communicated, and then we could you could readjust the budget. Yep, good talk. Okay. Anything else on the musical, choir, and orchestra enterprise fund? And this is only for the musical. Like, there's nothing else in this budget, correct?
Correct.
Just, there's other things to do with music in the district. I want to make sure that this is just that.
This is strictly the high
This
school
is
for the musical.
strictly for the high school
Yep.
musical.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah, where would you like to go next?
I'd like to move to
Nutrition?
nutrition. And this is one where, again, I thought I had fixed it, so when I was sharing it, I assumed you were getting a notification, but but you may not have, but it was shared. So it is in there. It will say fiscal 27 food service budget version 1.0.
So what is attached to the agenda? You want us to not look at that? And
Oh,
look
you can.
at-
It's the same.
Alright.
It is attached.
Hi, Trish.
I am not sure if the spend down,
Because the spend down, the updated
there were two
spend down
tabs to
plan
it, and
isn't-
I
yeah.
think only the first tab
Yep,
got attached for the public.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that we go back and just update that
Mhm.
so that people have access to it, please.
Okay. Hi. Hello. Come to the table.
Yes.
Okay, so I need to make this bigger. Oh my goodness, it's so tiny. All right, so a lot to go over on this budget. So Trish and I have spent a lot of time going through each of the lines and trying to really think about where, not just kind of what's happened in the last year and what we had in comparing, doing a budget to actual comparison to what we spent in 25, where we are with 26, but kind of what we're anticipating in 27 and what new things we might be doing in 27 and how they're going to be impacted within this budget. So there are some things that may look very different, but there are reasons behind all of it. So I'm just going to literally go straight down, starting with the revenue, and kind of explain the rationale. So the first kind of 5 lines, those are all payments that we receive in terms of non-reimbursable. So this is not reimbursements for any federal dollars. This is all money that's coming in, paid dollars for non-reimbursable lunches, breakfasts, meals, items like that. So those first 5 lines, the total for those lines, if you were to add them all up, it's $701,120, which is a fairly big jump from the $630 that we have in fiscal 26. There are a few reasons for that, and so I just want to point them out one by one. Lunches, we have noticed that we are serving a significant amount more lunches, breakfast and lunches this year than we were in fiscal 25. So we have accounted for that in our fiscal 27 budget, anticipating that we will have the same volume of lunches. So you'll see.
I was sorry. I was just saying. I would imagine that the price of groceries might be impacting that.
Absolutely.
Like that. And so I said if food
Absolutely.
costs staying the same, you probably would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then for breakfasts, we have seen an increase, but the jump in revenue that you'll see from 26 to 27 here, it's a bullet point that's down at the bottom, and Trish, if you want to talk about it in more detail, we can. So this does include an increase in the price for breakfasts. So right now, we charge $1 for breakfast. It no longer covers our cost to provide that breakfast. It has now become cost prohibitive for us to have this. So we are recommending a 50-cent increase in breakfasts for fiscal 27 to try and at least offset the cost of providing that service. We did talk about
The food cost alone is $1.40 for the breakfast that we're serving for $1 without the labor and the paper and all the other expenses that go with it.
And so we recognize that that is a substantial jump. We talked about maybe doing 25 cents in 27, 25 cents in 28, but understanding that just the cost of the food is going up so quickly, we really wanted to try and see if we could compensate in 27 and kind of get ourselves caught up. So the majority of the revenue increase in there is because we are proposing that rate increase. And then in canteen, we again are just noticing an increase in service of what we're having in fiscal 26, so we are accounting for that. We did not add any increase at the lunch level, knowing that we didn't want families to have to take a hit on 2 things. And right now, our costs for lunch are still manageable, like the offset is fine, so we didn't need any increase there. But we did notice that what they were getting in terms of the food costs and things like that were balancing off, and we are confident that the revenue will be sustainable year over year. Like, we're gonna see that revenue, I believe, in 26, and we're carrying that through in 27. Like, we don't think we're gonna see a drop off, like, based on how the increase is happening in 26, we're confident that that will continue for 27.
The amount of students buying lunch.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. For private catering, that has a jump of $20,000, and that is just, again, just an increase in what we're seeing, just regular usage for private catering, but that also includes, Trish, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the revenue that we anticipate from the concession truck. That's within that line item, correct?
For 27,
For
correct?
27.
Yes, correct.
So we know that we have the concession trailer that will be coming, so that revenue is being recognized here, because we do believe that we will see that revenue in 27. And then income for vending, we, not having the vending machines prior, not really knowing what to expect, for fiscal 26, we had put a very modest $10,000 of revenue. We've already surpassed that in fiscal 26, and they are not fully operational as of right now. So based on the numbers and looking at where we are and where we could be once everything is fully operational this year, we're fairly confident that we can raise that revenue to about
The
$36,000.
machines themselves are fully operational, but they're not taking credit cards
Right.
at this point.
But we can't capture all of the revenue that we
Correct.
normally
That's
would,
why
and
we
we've
leave
already
it.
met our
Correct.
budget.
Just rec basketball alone would have been people to stare at it and to see them staring at the Gatorade, wanting to purchase it.
Well, and in addition to that, in our spending plan, so one of the things that is noted is the purchase of additional vending machines outside of the for high school gym. So that revenue would also be captured in that 36,000 if we had additional vending machines. So that's from what we currently have and any additional ones that we would purchase. And then last year, we had concerns with where the reimbursements were falling, just based on what we were looking year to date and where we had ended the year prior. They didn't seem to be jiving, so we were very conservative with our federal reimbursements for lunch. However, we kind of got an influx after our budget cycle, and we leveled out in fiscal 25, and we were brought back up to where we had been in prior years. So in looking at that and looking at consistently where we are right now at the 325 in fiscal 26, we think we can raise it back up into the 700,000, 715 range to where it had been previously. So we're just making the recommendation to realign to what had been done in prior years for revenue. So overall, we're looking at roughly a $70,000 to $80,000 increase in what we're anticipating in revenue from what we actually brought in 25 to what we anticipate in 27. Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions on revenue before I go into the expenses?
What would it be if you didn't raise it by 50 cents?
If we didn't rate,
You can answer that later.
Nope, because we did this math. It was 16,000. That's right. The difference of 16,000.
Yes.
Right. There's 32,000 breakfasts, and it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
by
was
raising it, it would be 16,000.
16,000.
Okay.
So 20 breakfast line item would
Yeah,
be
but
20,000.
to operate, already we're operating, losing. the
Oh, I heard
Negative
you.
right now.
Yeah, I know. I was
Food
just
costs,
curious.
let alone the paper, the labor, and everything else.
Yeah. And I think that's one area where it's an obvious need. And if we look at kind of year over year, we have run at a deficit the last few years in this account when we're just looking at operating, so not including any of the spend down that we've done. So I think that will help offset some of that deficit that we've been seeing.
One question on the federal reimbursement. Is there any concern with anything on the federal level about any of those any of those amounts changing?
Not being reduced.
Okay.
They're very good at providing us information about like what's coming down the pike, like anticipate this, anticipate that, and I have not heard anything about it. Okay, so we did increase. So now we're going to go into cost of sales. For food canteen, that jump, that $35,000 jump, is a number of things. So one, we have just the increase overall in the cost of the food that we're purchasing. But then this also includes an increase for the costs that will come with running the new concession. So we have included that in here. And when we look at kind of year over year what we've spent and the plans that we were putting in place as part of the spending plan to improve the food quality and what we were doing, we brought that up at $35,000 to accommodate those three different things. Trish, do you want to expound on that at all?
No, I mean, you can buy an apple or you can get a kiwi. I mean, we just have introduced more variety just for the students to be able to just enjoy and get exposure to it.
Okay. So salaries that we're moving.
One question on the cost. Year to date, they look a little low, like if you average out. Is there a reason for that?
I think it's it's when I pull the information. So when I start pulling the budget, I'm pulling like in December. We have a lot of things that have not gotten processed through. I will say, perfect example, like our check run that we did last week was $1 million in a check run. There's stuff like between when I pulled this information and now, I think we've gotten a lot of invoices put through and we've processed a lot of things. So I would say that if we were to look at it right now today, it's probably much more lower.
Okay.
And I'm happy to pull that and give you
No,
more
that's a
accurate.
good enough answer. Yep.
She's over there. Okay. So just in general, in terms of the expenses, I don't, unless you want me to, I was not going to go line by line. I just want to talk like bold. I want to talk about salaries and benefits, and then I want to just talk about some of the additional expenses that we've kind of left in here and how we've adjusted it from the prior year, unless you want me to go line by line. Okay. So salaries and benefits, those are directly pulled from our salary table that you have. So if you were to look at this now, you would see that it matches what's on the dashboard for the operating budget. So those are pulled directly from the positions that we have, what step all of the individuals are on, what vacant positions that we have. So that's directly from the system. And that does include, I just want to point out, because I know this is something we talked about last year, that does include the district-wide sustainability specialist and the stipends for the sustainability coordinators and the social media coordinator. Because I know last year that was something that in the first round of budgeting we didn't include, and we went back and we added it in. So that is in these numbers right now. And then for substitutes, we had a long discussion about this because you can see in fiscal 25 we had tremendous spend on the substitutes. We had a really hard time filling positions. But one of the things that we are proposing within this budget, which we'll go into once I get done with all of this, I think will help to offset it. It's still an increase from what we had in fiscal 26 because I do think we have vacancies that need to be filled and there's no other way to do it other than the substitutes. But I do think that at where we are year to date in 26 and where we'll be in 27, that the $90,000 should be sufficient. I do not see us going up to that 127, and we kind of talked about ways that we can prevent that from happening. So just a quick hit items that we did put money in that maybe weren't in fiscal 26. Maintenance and repairs of equipment, we have a line item. We increased it from $7,526 to $15,000 because we're just finding that this is a line item where we're continually seeing it going above budget. So it just makes sense for us to start aligning the budget to what our actual spend is year over year. So since the enterprise account can handle it, we think that it's better to just be more realistic with that budget number. So same with kitchen equipment, which is kind of toward the bottom. We, in prior years, we were adding things from the spend down plan into that line and then kind of subtracting it out. I did not take that approach this year. I just put what would be realistic to have as an operating line item for kitchen equipment, and then all of the spend down is separated out. So just so that you understand kind of why there's some lines that look really different. And then one other line I just want to point out is the cafeteria supplies non-food. So there's a fairly big reduction in that line item, and that's just because of the Get the Full Amount grant that we have right now. So that is, at least for the next 2 years, going to be covering a fairly large portion of those items. And so we've kept the budget to what our expense would be until that grant runs out. So that's why there's the reduction from 26 to 27. So if we know, so overall operating expenses, including salaries, were at 951,467. And as I mentioned, I kind of worked the budget a little bit differently than we did last year, where we were like eliminating spend down plans from the line item. I just kept it all separate. One thing that we are proposing in terms of an addition would be a district-wide assistant to the child nutrition supervisor. So this amount that we have here is for both salary and benefits. And in order to accommodate this would be offset by the reduction of the van driver for child nutrition services. So based on our conversations, and Trish, I don't know if you want to, how much detail you want me to get into, but we don't believe that this is a position that we need to the level that we have it right now. And so we have a retirement that's going to be happening in that position. And so it's an opportunity for us to kind of restructure how we're doing that. We don't need a full-time driver just based on how we've changed our processes and different things that we've done. So that salary and benefits for that position is $61,654. So it almost all, it's a difference about $4,000 to kind of reallocate the money for that position into the assistant to child nutrition. And Trish, I don't know if you want to talk about what the purpose of that position is, or.
Well, I think the purpose of the position is to give me help. Because just juggling all the programs, the grants and everything. You know, when we talk about the spend down plan takes time, resources, and also just as far as the succession plan, we're very unique being self-independent. And I worked for Aramark for 15 years prior to this. So I know what the Aramark or the contract management position is, and I know what this has evolved to be. And it's two different animals, and I'd like to bring someone in to learn the ropes so that we will remain sustainable.
And then just to kind of touch back on what we were talking about, the substitute line, part of what we also talked about was having an additional person to try and offset some of the areas where now we have no other choice but to bring in substitutes for certain things, but that position could also help to support in certain areas there to try and keep those substitute costs down.
Correct.
Is there a job description for that position?
For the assistant, I have it, but not
attached.
I have the draft. Yeah,
But
I
we
don't
can-
have it there because I didn't know if we were there yet, so, but I do have it. And I just have to go over it with Stephanie.
Okay, so overall, we've been able to, you know, with what we're looking at, the actual expenses have not changed year over year. The nutrition runs a very tight ship, and they really do a great job of, you know, understanding what the costs are and what we need to budget for. And so I feel very comfortable with this budget. I think that we've been very thoughtful about the revenue and not overstating it, but really thinking about what areas we could improve upon and where we could bring in some dollars. Obviously, if we decide not to do the increase in breakfast, we've got a little bit of work to do because we'll have about a $16,000 adjustment that we'll need to make. But overall, I think that it's also sustainable. We have been operating with a slight deficit every year, and I think with what we've done here, we've adjusted it enough to try and get back on track to break even every year. I think this is a great start to doing that, but I also understand, you know, anytime we're talking about any cost implications to families, that there's a lot of thought that has to go into that. So
It's $90 if they get breakfast every day for 180 days, just to give people context.
Which could also mean we're losing $90 on every student from a food cost standpoint.
Oh no, I'm with
and
you on it.
operational
I was
cost.
just curious. I was curious because I heard you say the like 125 versus the 150, and so I did the math. Like I was just like, okay, what's the actual impact going to be to our families?
So another way to think about it, and again, like, so
I wasn't saying that was bad. I was
Oh,
just.
no.
It was
Well,
just a fact.
It's still, that was still 25 cents, we talked about this.
And we
As far
talked
as
about-
go for the 50 and see if we have to back down
But
over
all-
2 years, but the $1.25 won't cover the cost. The $1.50 is,
Yeah, it's barely covering the cost.
yeah, it's not gonna cover, it's gonna be close, so.
And in the grand scheme of a budget, obviously, it's all one pool of money. I mean, what's covering, your revenues have to cover your expenses regardless of how you make that happen. So the other thing that we had talked about was, if we're looking at just the fiscal impact to a family, we could make a 25-cent increase to each of the meal prices at lunchtime.
Is it?
It's more than $90.
What is it?
No, that's what we came out with, because it was.
What's that?
You're gonna increase it 50 cents a day, 50 cents per meal.
50.
Yeah,
Breakfast.
for breakfast.
For breakfast, if you buy, it's 50 cents
It's
a day,
$10 a
times
month.
5 days. It's $10
Yeah,
a
180
month.
days times 50 cents.
$10 a
Yeah,
month.
180 days.
180 days
Yeah.
Times 50
times
cents.
50 cents.
It's $90.
Just $90? Okay.
Yeah.
Not total cost, just the.
You're
cost
making it
of
more
the increase.
complicated, the 5 days a week. Yeah, 180 school days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
180
this is easier
Okay.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that piece, not the.
Not the
I didn't
rest
do
of
the
it.
other part. I just did the increase. So then it's like, is that how many weeks are we in school? Not days.
Just do it by day, right? It's easier, 180.
42 weeks is,
Yeah.
So one
So-
of the other things we talked about was not raising it at the breakfast, but raising lunch prices, which are, again, it's just offsetting the revenue. Because when we had talked about, we could raise lunch 25 cents per meal, because it's different for elementary, middle, and whatever, and high school. And that would only be like a $45 impact per year to families if they did it based on what they were having. So we were trying to think of different ways, but we arrived back on doing the breakfast because it's a direct one-to-one correlation of we can't cover the cost for breakfast, we need to increase the cost of breakfast. But if we're looking at the financial impact to families, there would be less of an impact to a family if we were to increase the cost of lunch. Correct, yes.
Because more, yeah.
Because it's spread over more
More
people.
people.
Yeah.
I have a question about that position you were talking about, because I know that we just approved a director of operations position, and I know that's supposed to oversee child nutrition services as part of her position, which to me would indicate that there would be some relief for you and for your department.
yes. In bids and procurement, yes.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, what your take is on the position that you're potentially asking for, you'd like to see, and whether or not, is it premature right now to ask for that position, because we haven't yet seen what the director of operations might be able to help you really. I know what you just said, but if you could just
Yeah.
explain it.
No, it's not premature. If anything, it's been needed.
Okay.
Just also from just a safety net.
Mhm.
For someone to know all the nuances that are going on in our department, how we're out in the community, just all kinds of programs that are going on. So it's, the time is now for that. I also know, having reported to many a director of operations here, we're doing well. There's going to be lower hanging fruit, I think, than our program right now, and they need to focus on what's best for the district as a whole. But I definitely plan on tapping into the bid process and that, just being able to gather and get the bids out and get the spend down plan. That's the one thing I'm looking for from the director of operations.
Okay.
It's not typical for a succession plan, though, to hire your replacement.
For me to hire my
Not,
replacement?
I just mean in general.
Yeah. I do think though,
It's not typical?
well, like to add a position to
Oh.
to create a succession plan.
But
That's
also,
slightly
we have our
unusual.
own nutrition versus other schools.
I,
Well,
I mean,
don't-
in
so-
general, not just for
Yeah.
nutrition, I mean in general. Like, when you are, leaving a position, you don't create a position to train your replacement.
I do
And
think
it's
Well,
though,
not-
someone's planning on retiring in
Well,
some short
it's
term.
not necessarily, who knows who this person is going to be anyway? But they are going to
just having
just
someone
make
else-
us run a better organization with our concession trailer, with our
Can you
vending.
go into a little more detail on the concession trailer?
I'm the
That
manager for
we
fish.
have been approved to have a concession trailer with a tow truck is gonna pull it. Just like We have, you know, if you go into the village or you go down to the beach and you see the
Yeah, food
trucks
truck
pulled up.
energy. Approved by like,
Yeah,
You approved by who?
the Department of Education.
sorry, we're surprised just because we've never heard of it.
Yeah,
That's
You
the
it's
whole-
on the
okay, so-
spending plan. It's on the new
I
plan.
saw it,
It's on the new
that's
plan.
why
So we have to find out, can we use it first,
Yeah.
right? So we got the approval from Bride saying, yes, this is something
We
we
got
can
it
do.
approved
So now
last
it's
year.
coming forward.
And now it's on the spending
Here
plan, so it's a new
for
item
here
that
of
we have
something that we
added
can
on
do.
the
So
spending plan.
what we're trying to do with the vending machines, with the concession trailer, is we're bringing in revenue streams.
Yeah. Yeah, I am not, my face is not, I thought it had been, I was trying to figure out when we approved it, when we had talked about it. It was just a new surprise, I think, is all that my face is making. Not that it's a bad idea to have additional revenue
Revenue
streams.
streams are awesome. I'm just, yeah, I think seeing it for the first time and hearing it baked into a budget that we didn't know anything about is just a little bit of a surprise. So I'd like to hear what the plans are for it.
Not right now.
Well, it's on the
The
Yes.
plan.
spend down plan.
It's on, so,
There is, the plan is there are, I went to the Eastern State Expedition this year and took down measurements, brands, product line, pricing, just did a deep dive there. There are 4 manufacturers here in New England. One is in Plymouth, which I'm scheduled to go to over the February vacation. And it's going to, we don't know exactly what our product line is going to be right now. And it's going to be able to be used in the community through the town events. And we're going to make a lot of money.
So basically, you're looking to bring in a food truck to increase revenue for the school department by being out in the community at events to provide that service, and then that would be revenue
It's-
back to us.
It
We
also has
also
an
talked about how we
education
can,
piece.
we also talked how we can later connect this to the culinary program as well, because we, which I don't think I've been able to share yet, but we just got approval for the culinary program to move forward as a CT program. So we can bring that in to connect to the, I just haven't had a chance to talk about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
checking.
recent, that's like
Nope, hot off
fresh
the presses.
off the
It's very
press,
good
right?
news.
So we could connect that food truck to the CT program as well.
And so
And
it's
then they
also
have,
going
and
to,
you
some
have to have
time.
it's
interns,
also
so
going
it's
to
a way
travel
for
around to the schools for
interns
special events that
for
are
that
going
time.
on at lunchtime.
Love that I love that. So I think what would be helpful is, although I believe Trish saying it will make us lots of money, maybe a little bit more detail on just like, I know it's a kind of in here, but like a little bit more detail for us on like what the income expectation might be and what the cost expectation might be. Like we don't have any backup for that, I guess, would be what I would say.
And like what that's based on in terms of like competition with the other food trucks that go
We've done all,
everywhere.
yeah,
and
we have
All right, so we're not
research.
gonna land this the second, and so why don't we put that on the things to follow up on category, and then move on.
and I can break out like the parts, because I have done the revenue and the expenses and it's built into the budget,
Yeah.
but I can break that out so that you can see the specifics. And what I will say is that, so RIDE did a push 2 years ago to try and get food trucks for this exact reason, to help offset some of the revenue and increasing costs, as
The
well as
grants
build
were
it in.
only-
I vaguely
The
remember
grants
that.
were only
Yeah.
permitted if you had a CTE program.
Correct.
Yeah,
we're
and I know
not-
they do a big food truck thing
Yeah.
every year because they do it when we're
Yeah,
at the
Cumberland,
the
like,
conference
grants
where we
for it,
can't
yeah.
go,
So-
and yeah.
So after all the grants were done, and there are people who didn't have CTEs, but people who are in pathways programs, RIDE has been encouraging them to, if you have an offset, to look into doing the food truck program, but you do have to get it approved because you have to make sure that whatever you're doing falls within the child nutrition program, but also falls within the CT. So that was the part where Trish has been working on trying to make sure that what we wanted to do could work, and we have found that it could. So in light of the fact that we do have a spend down plan, that is why I included it in here, because I wanted it to be a topic of discussion, since we now know that we could do it. So,
I think we have like 18 life skills students who are rotating in and out of the kitchen, so this would be an opportunity too. If we're going to Stony Lane, that it's going to be just added education.
All right, so I'm going to put that down as just some additional details for the budget purposes. Other questions regarding the, whatever this nutrition enterprise fund is called? Nothing? We're good?
Oh, no.
Yep.
Well, do we have to approve this tonight? Because I have many
No, we're not
questions on the
approving
spend
anything
down
tonight.
plan. But I can follow up with you separately on those if you like.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You can send out.
Fill them, yeah, we just put them on the form.
Yeah.
So what I do want to just point out on the spend down plan, so you'll see it is different. It combines 26 and 27. So after our last meeting where we were here and we were talking about the spend down plan, I really wanted to clean it up. I wanted to be able to look at and have a conversation with Trish about, we were talking about what had originally been on the plan, what is realistic between now and the end of the year, because I know that was a question that was asked of here, to say what do we think we can, realistically get done, what might have to be moved to next year. But also, in talking about some of these items with what we had originally proposed last year, there were some changes in pricing. So things were not costing as much as we had thought they were when we gave the spend down plan last year. So I wanted to put a representation on here, whether it be just a starting point for more discussion on how we wanted to look at it. Was we originally said $875, but really when we look at what these things are actually going to cost, it's only $645. Do we want to add more things? Do we want to do what's on here, what we said was realistic in this year, and then add to fiscal 27? So that is why the spend down plan looks the way it does. It needed to be a conversation about what the expectations are, not just from an audit perspective, but what the school committee is expecting. But I also wanted to add in a piece that we touched upon last Tuesday when I was talking about net cash resources and how it has to be spent and RIDE's approval. So one of the things that we have to consider here that we have not talked about before is that every year when we do our net cash resource, what RIDE is asking us to do is to say anything that you have above and beyond 3 months worth of expenses is what needs to be spent down. So when we're looking at a spend down plan and we're looking at what our fund balance might be and how much we have, we need to be aware of the fact that we need to always keep at least 3 months worth of expenses in that fund. So I wanted to make sure that what we had a starting point and we could kind of visualize what that was. So our 3 month expenses based on our most recent net cash resource was $470,000. So we need to make sure that whatever spend down plan we are putting together, we always have at least $470,000 in that account once we're done. So with that, looking at where we are, where fiscal 26 is kind of landing as of right now based on the changes in cost, and what we have laid out for potential 27, we would still have $913,000 in that account. So then the question to the committee is, knowing that we need to keep a certain amount of money, does the committee want us to go forth and put forward an additional $350,000 worth of expenses, or do we want to leave a cushion in the account? How far down? Because from audit purposes, being under $1 million, we still have but above the 470, we still have a spend down. So my recommendation would be that we need to fill that gap, but ultimately the school committee can say, this program has been operating at a deficit every year, and we want to make sure we have the expenses plus cushion in case we have a deficit this year.
So we could talk about that, but it's not in the budget. It's not on the agenda. Like FY20, whatever you're talking about right now. I don't know. I think we'd have to put that on another to have a really in-depth conversation about it and be able to vote on it because it's not on right now.
Okay.
I know it informs the FY27 one.
Yes.
But I don't know if we can really get into the change piece of it.
For fiscal year 26.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
my other recommendation to that, since we can't, would be just to leave fiscal 26 with the items that are on fiscal 26 have been previously discussed. A lot of the dollar amounts have changed.
I'm just saying we'll put that on for the next agenda, and we can talk about that last piece.
We could, if we're knowing what we know, if we left fiscal 26 where it is, could just decide, do we want to add the additional items to fiscal 27? So talk about just doing it in fiscal 27, and those would be just examples of some of the things that didn't make this list, but that we could talk about for 27 were the salad bars, at the each of the elementary schools, there were a handful of items that were still kind of in play that Trish and I had talked about that we could add to fiscal
We
27.
could add, they were improvements, but they weren't necessary.
Yeah, she did not consider them to be like
I'm gonna
vital.
put that on for next.
Yeah, because they're not listed here, right?
FY26.
No,
FY
and, yeah, they're not listed because I didn't think they were necessary.
I do want to thank you for adding the transaction fees.
Mhm. Oh, and yes,
Oh,
and that
yes.
was one of the things that we made sure, since we did get approval from RIE to pay for those service fees, they are added to the spending plan for 26 and 27.
So is it going to be that the company's going to charge us for the credit card fees?
Yes.
Other questions about this one? All right, let's move on.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
What's next?
Welcome, have a good night.
Also, Trish, the walking tacos, big hit at my house, and the pizza rolls,
Oh, yeah.
kind of like mozzarella sticks. I'm just saying,
I
a
didn't notice it.
big
I
hit
like
as
it.
well.
We gotta switch it up.
I know. I think everyone is, Trish.
So they really,
it definitely
yeah.
can be the difference this year.
I don't get a lot from my children when they come home, but I did get that update. So there we go. All right, which one? Where are we going next?
So, as we kind of talked about in the beginning, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to the operating budget. And that is something that we're still working on. We have a full working session that's coming tomorrow morning and Thursday to just keep identifying all the areas so when we come back next week, we have a document that is much closer to where we need to be, if not where we need to be. So my goal for this evening was, there were a lot of questions that came out of the last budget meeting, which I provided answers to, but I didn't know if anybody wanted any clarification on any of those questions. If there's anything specific within the budget that you wanted to talk about tonight, I'm kind of, we know that there are areas that we can look at again, and that's where we're going to start. So those could be one-time items that we know that can come out. I'm currently working on clear picture of fund balance and fund balance allocations to have for that meeting on the 10th. So that, should we have to go that route, we have a clear idea of where we stand now that the audit is done and kind of what was allocated for 25 and 26. But my goal tonight was really just to kind of see if there was any like areas or additional questions that I didn't answer from the last time that we could talk about tonight that could potentially help guide where we're going between now and next week.
Yeah, I sent it to you again, a follow-up to my merit pay question, because I feel as if you gave us what the merit pay budget was, but from my perspective, I'm looking at that merit pay line, and I'm like, did everybody just get merit pay? To me, it just seems like merit pay was just,
So I based the merit pay, I have criteria based on evaluations, so the principal evaluations and for our staff, based on what category they get, what percent they get.
And I didn't attach anything because as far as I was aware, I don't think I'm allowed to answer some of those questions. I don't think I was allowed to provide some of that because it's like personnel information. So I provided what I know I was allowed to provide, which is the dollar amounts for that. So I would have to defer to Mrs. Russo and Dr. Duva for the other halves of those questions on like how it was allocated or who got what.
it just seemed like a lot of money in merit pay, and that the increase was a lot of money in merit pay, and I'm just having this.
So I have a criteria which I can go through, and I don't want to misquote myself into my head, but based on the evaluations, if the employee, based on the evaluation, met certain criteria, right, then they got a certain percentage. So I'm just thinking of like the principal evaluations. If you came out exemplary, right? Am I using the right terms? Exemplary, then I gave 3%. If you came out under, then it was a 2%. If it was under that, it was 1 or none.
Okay, so it sounds like you provided the numbers, but you might have the questions the answers to the questions that I kind of have, so you and I can have this
Yeah, we can
discussion
have a conversation
offline.
about
Okay, thank you.
And one thing I did want to point out, this was discussed in budget and finance, but I will point it out here. So one of the things that, going back and looking at merit pay just to make sure, I did have an error where the number that I put in my budget workbook was actually the total number for merit pay instead of putting the administrator amount and the non-certified amount. So I added it twice. So I have corrected that. The budget book you have now is I put, if you add the two together, the total for those two is the number that I had in the admin line. So I had admin at 128. It should have been at 105.
And that obviously all immediately changes the
So
request for the
Right,
appropriation.
so when you, because it immediately made me look at it when you said, why is there a $41,000 increase? I said, there is not. There should not be. So I immediately went back and looked. So that was 100% my error. Thank you for pointing it out. But that has been corrected. So the increase is not as large as you had anticipated.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense because I'm thinking we're just like, hey,
No, and the
you
percentage-
get to make raise and you get.
I thought perhaps I had used the wrong
I
percentage. The
based
percentage
it, so
was
there was nothing for me to use prior. And so I had to put criteria together of how I was going.
That we were aware of.
But that we were. I had nothing to base it off of that. So I had to put something together.
Okay.
And I
Thanks. That
also.
makes more sense.
I
Okay.
can't say much.
Other questions for Leslie that are still outstanding, or kind of thoughts or directions from the committee on where we would like them to spend their time on Wednesday and Thursday as they continue to go through this?
So, like, just some random thoughts I had was that I think we've talked about these, like, investment earnings. I think there might be some wiggle room there to bump that number up. I think that might be a little low, and these are just my random thoughts. I think the student service, the substitutes number is really large, but substitutes was one of the numbers that was part of the surplus last year. So I'm questioning that for that reason.
I had a similar question
Yeah.
about the custodial surplus number and like where that we anticipate that may be landing for this year.
So I adjusted, so I can answer the custodial line. So if you look, I kind of reduced, I took a different approach to the custodial line. So it actually, I think we went high last year because we had a piece that we weren't sure of, which was assuming the costs for when the town uses services. That's like a cost that we were paying.
That's one of my questions.
And so I had compensated for that in the budget last year, and I don't think the spend was as high as it was, so I have reduced that. And so I think that there's still some adjustments, but then midstream, after our budget was approved, we got an increase from our custodial provider, and then we got another increase from them. So I had to take that into consideration. So the jump probably seems a little warped and a little weird because there are two different things happening within there. But I do think that similarly, I think there were increases that were factored into the 25 budget that didn't happen, which is why we had a surplus there, and I think we've now subsequently been given those jumps
Okay.
in 1 year.
Yep.
Is what I believe happened. Again, I was not there for all of it, so I don't want to say for certain, but I do think that played into it.
That makes sense. But if you can look at the substitute one, just because it is a big bump up this year, but we bumped it up last year, but we were under or over, whatever makes the positive number.
Do we know where and I know we're not at the we don't have our projections, but do we have a projection for where we might be with?
So we do actually. So from and again, you probably did not see it because of the sharing issue, but in the folder, one of the things that came out of last meeting was asking us about outsourcing and bringing in substitutes
Yes.
in-house and the costs and how that all impacts. And so Stephanie and I did a lot of work reaching out to other people and putting together a kind of rough, still in progress,
awesome.
but
Okay.
a cost projection. So it is in there. There's numbers from ESS. We did, what the cost is with our administrative fee from using them and kind of where we are year to date. So right now, I only have bills through the beginning of December, and we're at just under like 900,000. So that would put us at like 1.8 for the end of the year. But then it's not a split half year. So we're probably going to be over $2 million. That's what I'm projecting out right now. And that's just assuming that we're not going to have I mean, I don't think we're gonna have any rate increases. They've assured us that we should be fine. But I think we're gonna go over budget this year. If I'm looking just at where we are now and what we've been billed year to date and what it's pulling up from, I think it's gonna go over. But also keep in mind that in that substitute number is not just ESS, it's also the substitute line that we use for our momentum line, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure I'm using the right
The
agency.
5 contracted,
So for some of those contracted positions, that's also factored into that.
Is there a
line
way to
item.
break it out?
It's just by UCO code, so yeah. I
Okay,
could.
yeah, I think that would be helpful to
Sure.
see like actual substitutes versus like
Like
contracted yes.
positions, it
Yeah.
all falls into the substitute line, but
Yeah.
for UCO wise, I can break it out, because it is 2 different numbers.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Sure,
Yeah.
so that also plays into it, so for ESS, just alone, we're looking at being like over 2 million, and then we
Okay.
have that piece, so I was looking at, if we're already gonna be over budget, we need to increase it for next year, but I can break it out, sure.
Another thing was curriculum, like we talked about, like taking that number that's in there now and moving it out and taking it out of the capital fund. That was
It's in theory a one-time cost.
Yeah, and
in theory.
we're talking about like seeding the fund with money, so it would make sense to do that. I think we talked about transportation. We needed some more information on transportation.
And
the
I am
way-
still working on trying to break that out. I still do not have projections from RIDE. So I do not want to provide you information and have it be completely off base because I don't have any numbers. So, Michelle is.
She has to be in by 6 tomorrow morning to be
Yeah.
able to go home.
So,
She has a
I mean,
long drive home
she has
and back
been
here.
kind of putting the pressure on them to get the information, so I'm still working on it, because I want the numbers to be accurate.
Okay, circling back to the custodial fee, what is the status of like the town paying for the custodial fees?
Yep, so I can answer that. So we had talked about this 2 budgets ago, that what we were doing, they were increasing what they were giving to us for us to pay directly for the custodial. So when we put our budget together, we have increased what our request is to the town to cover the contract with ABM for custodial services for rec use. Because, and this is what I had talked with them, and I know we've brought this up before, if their concerns from the town's end, their concerns is that if they have to pay the fees for the custodial services through them, they're going to have to increase their recreational fees on the community. So instead, when I spoke with the town administrator, he agreed that if we increase our request in our budget for what the cost is for the custodial fees based on their usage, we would get that from the town in our town appropriation. So we've been including that in there based on what those costs are. So essentially, they're paying for it because they're giving us the money through a town appropriation for that. Last year, we increased it to 60 for this year, and then in this budget, we still have that at.
It's in
Is it
there,
still
it's just
at?
it's not as high because I think we had a surplus. And so when I looked at what was spent and when you kind of break out what would be for the town, I thought it was high. So I think it's reduced to like 48.
But how are we calculating
Yeah, the usage.
the usage?
So we're basing it off of what they've put in from the previous year, is my understanding, based on like what.
So you did the math of what they would have paid
Right,
us?
so like
if
what
they paid us?
their usage is of the building, right?
Can we
what
see that?
costs. Yeah, we can go through that, and that's how we calculated what an increase was. It was an estimate. I mean, it wasn't exact, but it was an estimate.
So are we charging
could
them
get-
the same, like say for instance, if the school PTO runs an event on Saturday, they're paying them for the maintenance to be there? Are we billing the town the same
Well,
for
we're
the
billing.
rent?
No, we're keeping track of what it is, but they're giving us that money ahead of time in our town appropriation.
We changed that policy.
100%. Well, no, we don't have to change our policy because our policy is our policy. We're not following it when it comes to the town.
Right, that's what I was
Because
just
they're
saying.
giving
Or
us,
like if,
but I guess what would the difference be? If they're gonna give us the money in town appropriation for the cost of those custodial fees up front, for us to pay for it, they're giving it to us up front versus us then billing them later for it.
so what's the
Right?
difference?
I
It's
Because we're
just-
guessing.
Right,
an
that's what I
estimate.
mean.
It's an
It's an
estimate.
estimate, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have a I don't know, I just,
And again, we had this philosophical
We-
conversation about the rental, and we agreed, but this is stuff that we're actually getting billed for from ABM. Like,
Mhm.
these are for the weekend, like, this is the cost that we're actually bearing, and
right,
that,
we are,
Yeah.
Right,
and
so
we've
let's
estimated
see.
what that would be.
So I
and
would like
putting
to
that
see
in
the data
request
that
of
had the
So
estimate. We should be able to pull that
Yeah.
easily.
We can get
Um,
what their usage is.
And then if the committee does decide that that's how we would like to move forward for the FY27 budget, then I would recommend that we change the policy to note that we need to write that
Yep.
down somewhere. That
Agreed.
can't just be, like, that has to be documented somewhere. So, but first let's check to see, like, actual versus it's kind of like when you give a stipend for mileage, right? Like, I'm fine with that piece, but I want to make sure that we're not losing money and that we're accurately estimating it and then documenting it, so.
Because they're basically saying it's harder for us to bill them every month for it,
No, they're saying that they don't have the money.
but they're giving it to us anyways.
Right, they're giving it to us ahead versus paying
Yep.
for it later.
and then we had brought up the question about the revenue line and the 15% line, and I know that you added a document in there, right?
Yes, I did. So
okay.
it's okay. So two different things. So the revenue line that's in the budget, which is the 15%, is different from the document that I uploaded. So that revenue line, where it says, I think it's like rental. I don't know why it's called rentals from capital or whatever. Let me tell you exactly what it is. Rental income, 15% capital reserve. It's not really rental income. It is the income that we get from our enterprise accounts. So
Okay.
that is what that line item is. So this is when we get, based on the budgets that I just said, the $4,200 from gate receipts, or depending on how the musical goes, it's usually like $8,000 from musical. That's what populates that revenue line. The document that I uploaded is for Fund 2408, which is rental and use of our buildings, which is the revenue that comes from when people like the PTO or whoever we're charging to use our
Girl
facilities for whatever
Scouts
those
or-
items are.
Yeah,
No, Girl Scouts don't contribute.
they don't, oh.
They have a special code.
So there's two different things. So that document provides the revenue. What happens with that revenue is at the end of the year, we look at all of the expenses that have come to the district for those events, and then we look at the revenue that has come. The offset of that is then applied either as positive or negative on the custodial expenses within the operating budget. So some years you have a surplus, and some years you have a deficit. If we have a deficit in that account, obviously then we're getting additional, the operating fund is taking on that expense. So we are paying the difference, and so our expenses would be increased. If we have a surplus of revenue in that account in a particular year, our expenses are reduced in that year by that amount of money. And that all happens after the close of the year with audited financials. We make that transaction. So once the audit is approving all the ins and outs and any transfers that have to be made, so that's kind of like a one-time entry that's done at the very end of the year. Actually, not even at the end of the year. It's usually done in September.
Okay, thank you.
And so what I tried to provide the last 2 years.
Yep.
Maybe even 3. I think it might be 3 years of revenue expenses.
Can we go back to expenses, the summary of revenue and expenditures? And I'm just curious about the potential RIDE MLL, Jody, sorry, professional development that was potentially coming down the pike. Do we have any information on that? Because it looks like the budget, it looks like there's not like a significant increase in our budget.
For professional development,
Yes.
so we have until 2031, I believe, to fully implement the new regulations for MLL.
Okay.
What they have released now is that, so it's going to be a proficiency and awareness similar to the right to read. They're working out who needs what. Right now they've released, or they're soon to release, the awareness modules, which will be similar to the awareness for right to read. It'll be an online about 15 hours, so we are currently working on the professional development plan to incorporate that next year. They don't have a vendor yet, or they're just receiving applications for vendors for proficiency. So that is down the line further.
I only asked because I remember last year at this time,
Yep.
it was more like 27, 28. So I remember saying maybe we should start to put some money away to save up, because you had said it could be a significant amount of money that.
Once we get the vendor, then we'll know the prices. I took part in a pilot for one of the vendors. It was the AIM Institute, which we used for Right to Read. I don't know if they'll apply again or if they'll get it, but it's going to be significant. And also for paying teachers, I mean, similar things outside of school hours. We only have so many PD days incorporated. We'll use those to the potential. I don't know if RAD will provide any release days like they did in the past. That is still up in the air because the vendors haven't all applied and they haven't selected anything, so that's still in an RFP process.
So for right now, we haven't put anything in the budget in preparation for.
We would use, potentially, we would use some of the professional development for next year as we're developing that plan for the awareness training.
Okay.
So to give teachers the 15 hours to work on in small groups, independently, that still has to be spelled out, and there's no cost to that.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just attended a meeting on this too, and Jody just captured it. But like the piece of trying to kind of make the awareness the focus is kind of our first part, because that's what we know more about right now. The proficiency is likely, Jody kind of alluded to it, but it's likely going to be really kind of a staggered process over multiple years, because we do have till 2031, and there's no way we're going to be able to get like everybody trained at once based on the volume. But also, we just don't know enough about it at this point. Like, we don't have the vendor. We have like summary overviews from RIDE about what the components of it are, like in terms of choice and in terms of different things, but the specifics of it we're still waiting on. So
no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that if it was something that we had to, encumber in this budget, that we were obviously planning for it.
Yeah, and for right now, we're working on just using professional development time to focus on the awareness component.
Okay, and it sounds like it's free. This first piece is.
Yeah, it's asynchronous online training.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just want to specify the training is free as long as we don't have to pay the staff additional time to do the training.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Free-ish.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, so like,
Free-ish.
specify
Right,
that,
it's not
and
like we're gonna
that's
say they're
the
not able to
conversations
do it.
we're having right now.
They don't have time during the day to do it.
Other questions or things that we want Leslie and the administration to look at before we see the budget?
I just had a quick question. I know I've mentioned this before about the bus monitors. Were we going to try to align them with the mini bus monitors so that we're not at two different? I feel like that would help us. I had said before about kind of keeping our bus monitors. So how like the mini bus monitors make more money because they have steps than
Yeah,
But
one's
one's a TA.
one's so some are in the union, some are not.
Well,
So
I
they're
know.
different positions. So
I get that, but I'm just saying I still think they have.
We have different job descriptions.
Okay, so basically because they're in the union, they don't.
well, no, but also if they're a TA versus a monitor, they're different. So we would pay them.
So the people on the
same,
minibuses
different
have
responsibilities.
different skill sets than the ones that are on the phone.
There's different responsibilities.
Regardless, I think the one that you're talking about is the ESP, so there's that's been negotiated, so it.
No, I know, but I was just saying, I think sometimes
No, I
we have
think you're
trouble
talking about
keeping
the
bus
non-ESP
monitors
bus
because
monitors.
I feel like,
Yep.
why would you want to become a bus monitor on the full-line buses knowing you're not going to make as much money as you do if you took a job on the mini,
Right.
bus monitors.
Yeah, the TAs, which are different responsibilities, and that's why the pay is different.
Well, I get it, but you still have
Yeah.
a whole bus of 70 kids. I just feel like we have a trouble keeping bus monitors. So. Okay.
It's valid, but I don't, because it's contracted, I don't think we can.
With the bus monitor.
The bus
The bus
monitors.
monitors are not
That's what you're talking
contracted.
about.
No, that's what I mean. I was just saying
She's
that
talking about the.
we could actually, no, I'm talking about the bus monitors.
The
Like,
bus
why
mon-
wouldn't we
bus
just
monitors.
make
Oh.
them have steps?
So we haven't adjusted the bus
Got it.
monitors yet.
Got it.
But we can't pay them the same as the bus TAs because they're different responsibilities.
Well, and we did
Didn't-
just
No,
adjust.
Didn't
We did just
We
adjust.
did.
Yeah.
We
We
did
did,
just
but I meant
adjust.
they're all paying the same instead of having a
Mhm.
reason to stay longer.
We just moved them up to
To all being the
$18
same.
an hour, I believe.
But I was saying, like, if they had steps, if they were here longer, it would get them to stay for,
Yeah.
like being a reason to stay.
Other questions or considerations that we want the administration to look at, and then I want to shift to talking about timeline.
Because we wondered about all the kids on the bus.
what, Sherry?
Nothing, I just said, where there's like 70 kids that they're responsible for on the bus, and I feel like we continually have trouble keeping bus monitors.
Yeah,
And
so
I
is
think
that-
we're not making any, that's why I think at the budget time, maybe we should put steps in or something different, so that would give a reason for them to stay
Alright.
longer.
Can the administration look at what that could look like? I'll note that. Okay, other questions or thoughts? Okay. Is there a document in the folder about, like, is the timeline document in here for, like, the different schedule for the budget?
The original one, no, that is not in,
It's not one of the 9,000?
It's
I
not
was
one of
gonna
my
say-
9,000
I was gonna say,
documents.
I like how
Is
you
it-
put everything in one
Do
spot.
we
though.
have it anywhere?
I can figure it out.
I have it somewhere.
I
Hold on.
I know it was
I have
attached to
it.
the agenda, but
I
Yeah,
can
I have it. I
into
can get
the
it here.
folder
It's just
relatively quickly.
pull up and send it to everybody.
I think it's probably the only thing I did.
it's okay, no worries. I knew it was attached to an agenda, but I didn't, no, I don't want to go find it.
So I'm going to share it with everyone right now.
Good job finding it first. I was
Well,
like,
frankly,
I was like, I know I have it in here somewhere.
All right, so it's called FY 2027 budget calendar, and it's should be so the Monday the February 23rd is the deadline for submission of the school committee budget to the town. The town manager has to submit the proposed budget to the town council Monday, March 9th.
So today is the 3rd, we have a meeting on the 10th. We need something else.
Yes.
Or we could finish on the 10th. Because the reason that you don't have anything else is because of February break.
Yes.
Damn it, that's right.
I will get it done on the 10th. It will be done on the 10th. Kenny, we're getting this done on the 10th.
Okay, so that's in, so we need all the attachments by Friday to be done by the 10th. Huh?
I was like, it will not be done.
No.
There's no way this is gonna be voted on and ready to go by the 10th. There's no way.
So, the only,
No, you're right. The only one is we had a.
I mean, so we've got,
and we've been meeting weekly, and I know you're working very hard on this, like, it's not that, but like, there's a reason why we have no money meetings, so, if someone wants to be creative, go nuts.
I mean, I would say we could do what we did the last time and vote on the 23rd, right before the town council meeting.
You have, is policy then?
Budget and finance is at 4:30 and policy is at 6, so we can reschedule this. I mean, voting on the budget is.
Yeah, but is he, when it says deadline for submission,
He is submitting it on the 9th.
We have
So
to get
he's-
it to them by the 23rd.
We have to get it to them by the 23rd.
So I just, and I don't know if this is possible, Andrew, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, so, obviously, the town finance director comes up with their timeline, which then they present to us, and we base our timeline off of there. Are we able to check with the town finance director to see if that 23rd date can be extended? If they don't have to propose.
I don't know the exact date, but I know the language is in the charter.
Yeah,
So my
it's,
thought
it's
is
under
no.
section
Yeah,
908.
it's
so I
not
don't
a,
think
it's
so.
not a random,
It's not a-
it's not a
That's
random
what I wasn't
date
sure,
yet,
that's
no,
why I
no,
asked.
no,
there's
it's
a
in the
buffer
charter.
though.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
the
could we
language
do
is
it on
for
the
him, it's not-
24th?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a buffer. The problem is too, that 23rd date, the week prior to that is school break, so not bad or good, but like it just requires, like you have to be ready for that meeting, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that is, I mean, you're welcome to inquire about that and see if there's any flexibility
I can
on
check.
that.
I think I checked this last year though, but I'm happy to take a look at the charter.
So let's check that, and then, do we know to what level we have to submit on the 23rd? Because I know we then have to go to our hearing.
So I'm looking at
Thingy.
last year. Last
Yeah.
year I have in my calendar, deadline for submission of school committee budget on the 24th, 5:30 school committee meeting.
No, I know. I know what we did last year.
definitely did it last year.
And
We
I
did
think
it
we
in
added an
Tuesday.
extra meeting this year, hoping that we would, right? I think we
Oh, we
did.
most certainly
Okay.
did. Okay. Dr. Duba, I would defer to you.
Are people around the week of February break to have a meeting?
I am.
I am.
I'm
I
not.
know we're not, but I'm just thinking, like, we are you around? Or no?
I'll be around. It will not be the first vacation I work through, nor will it be the last.
So I just mean, like, are you in state? Like, are you here?
Where am I going to be?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Like, I'm here. So, I mean, like,
I was going to say,
making
isn't
sure.
it
It is, the part of the concern too
It is, I
is
know.
just to
I'll
acknowledge
be
the fact
away
that, like,
the week of March 9th.
families do not enjoy when we meet when they are not here. We have gotten, like, that
And
is
we
not.
have, we avoid that. I mean, that's something
Yes,
we
I
avoid.
know.
just
No, I know, and I
Yeah.
understand that we are not in a
The
perfect
other-
world. I just wanted to say it out loud because I do respect the process
Yeah.
of
The other thing is, I mean,
having
we
it
can
be
meet
accessible.
twice.
Twice what?
We can meet twice the week of the 10th.
But that won't get, how are we going to have any time to accomplish anything?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look
Yeah.
at where.
Well, we did meet on April vacation. I wasn't here, but I remember you guys were all here.
Bring us to balance. Give us a budget on the 10th, and we will vote on it.
You have to
Or we meet on the
exactly
23rd.
what we want.
We got this. We'll do it.
All right. Other questions, thoughts, comments tonight? If not, I would.
Capital is on. We didn't talk.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to get a letter to the town. And then last night at Budget and Finance, we went through what that request should look like. We went back and forth about, do we just submit the request that I had put forward from asset management? It was in about 756. Well, I have it here.
Do we have
It goes.
is there an attachment in a folder or something? I should-
No, it's for the next meeting. 'Cause we-
Actually, capital improvement projects is on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I'm saying, do I have a backup for it?
No, I guess we could have sent. I was thinking I had to wait till next week.
No, but
But I don't
Do
think
we-
that's from budget. I think that was on here.
No, it was.
anyway.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. But I
yeah,
guess
this
I
is
could
on
have
here.
looked.
But it goes.
So did I-
So
Dr. Dewey could put the attachment.
Yeah. So the capital improvement plan, which I submitted from asset management to the school committee, that was, that was the amount of $767,000, and those were for projects throughout the district that we had identified. There were projects at the high school, replacing the flue pipe, auditorium aisle lighting, heating controls, heating pump, grab bars in the bathroom stalls.
Are you reading from something you can forward us?
I certainly can. I don't know. I know you all have it. I don't know where it is.
I know we had it at some point.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was
gonna
attached
I'm
to
gonna
the-
reshare it. I'm gonna just share this.
Maybe we can
with
put it
all
in the
of you.
budget files.
I feel like so the question
It
that
might
came up
fade
in
through
budget
it.
and
I believe it
finance
is.
was
Yeah.
It is. Is it? Because I was thinking.
Just the-
All right, hold on. I guess.
the
It's
big
from
motion to discuss
December.
capital improvement projects.
We are in,
Okay.
we're
All
we're
right.
not, no,
I
we're
know.
in presentation right now.
Okay. So the question that came up in budget and finance was, does the request that goes to the town, does that specifically ask for money to cover some of the projects that Ken asked for in his presentation to Asset Management Commission? Or do we make a general funding request to the town for a specific amount of capital to allocate?
That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
The school committee is supposed to give a specific request. It's
Yeah.
not just through the asset management committee.
Yeah,
We have the opportunity to do that. We have not done that in the past couple of the years because of the bonds and all of the different things. But if there are needs that are identified that we could request money from the town, we most certainly have the right to do so.
or we could do both.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I mean, those
We don't
were-
know what the asset management committee is going to do.
Well, but we know what Ken asked for, so that was
Yeah.
the question, like, does he ask?
can we just put a request for $750,000 for renovations and maintenance for the district, and that's our ask.
Or do we make a long-term, like, ask out over the next 5 years for $1.5 million, like, to be allocated, blah, 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 blah? Like what is the way that the committee wants to go about making the request? Because we have not made a
Well,
request.
so the did the budget advisory committee have a recommendation?
The motion was at the discretion of the superintendent. That was the recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee.
I think we should put in for a specific request of funds that can be used each year. Because every year we're going to have to put funds towards the buildings to maintain them. A boiler may go down. In the presentation we have, there's a list here of items that we need to do throughout the district.
So why don't you put a memo together for us for next week?
I need to know tonight because the memo has to be written tomorrow and sent to town council. They need it for Monday for their meeting. So I'm asking if we can talk about it tonight so that I can put something together.
So I think we were saying, like,
with an amount.
too, like, if we're being so specific about what we want, could we be more, like, we need this amount of money and, like, not knowing exactly what might go?
They're
during
meeting
the
on,
year?
so the town council's meeting on Monday with asset management.
Why does it have to be on a
this
Monday?
request.
Oh, because
That's when they
They
meet.
have it on their agenda, so really should be getting them the letter, sending it to them tomorrow with our request. So do we want to request 1.5 over the next 3 years and 500,000 each year? Do we want to just put a request for 750,000 for next year?
I like the longer term approach. And
And then
You need a plan, though.
I was just about to say that. That's the problem. I mean, we could say we need. I mean, I can give you.
I know what the old one looks
specifics.
like. Like Phil had one, and
Yeah,
it
that's
had
what
an
I'm pulling
outline,
it up
and we
right
approved
now,
it, and
yeah.
it went forward. We are not prepared to do that this evening,
we
so
have stuff for next year. I mean, we have a plan of what's needed for next year.
I would submit
So-
that
I mean,
amount, and
I will say that the Budget and Finance Committee went through and had specific allocations that we had recommendations for each bucket, like that, for each thing going forward. So in theory, we could make a recommendation for that amount that the committee could vote on, based on what the discussions in the Budget and Finance Committee.
So, and
There's no
then we
backup.
wouldn't necessarily have to itemize them, except like this for this coming year, yes. But then we know the costs, but for the next 2 years, we could then discuss each, like say, okay, for next year, we're going to use the $500,000 for.
We wouldn't even
Yeah.
have to say, really.
Right.
We would just be asking, hey, we're going to ask, every year we're asking for $1.5 million. Like, our estimate is that we're going to allocate it this way. And
Right.
then once they gave us the money, we would just have it allocated in those.
Because I think in the interest of time, if we need to get this done
Yeah.
tonight, then that's the best way to go. Say we want, we're asking for 1.5 over 3 years, 500,000 a year, or whatever the total is, and then we know, you all have recommendations from last night
How to,
of how to
Yeah.
allocate it.
I don't have any information. What do you like? What is like Jen? Like, what, there's no.
Well, two things. We talked about the
backups.
fund balance, which I think was different than.
no,
us.
that's what we're talking about right now.
Okay, I thought we were talking about the capital request to the town.
Well, we're talking about both, but like, we would, the same allocations would break out in the town capital as they were in the fund balance. Like, it would be the same thing. I'm just saying, if we have to make a request, we can model it based on those numbers that we came up with.
I would recommend just making an FY27 request, because, like, to ask just for $1.5 million after we just did a bond with no plan or backup or information to be even presented to us to be able to approve it, like, I'm not blindly asking for $1.5 million.
I was only saying that because I watched the meeting, so
You have a little more.
right, I have
insight,
Yeah,
some
but that's not.
background information,
Oh, that's
and
what
it's either 757 or whatever the number was for this year,
Yeah.
or 500 really for this year,
Yeah.
and 2 more years to come. So it's just, do we want to go?
And what they already have this request, which I had shared back in December with you.
But I would say, like, instead of putting through the whole 757, because some of that stuff is 1,000 here, 1,000 there, is identify the big dollar items and put through the request for that amount. Because we're not going to ask them for $3,000.
Yeah.
Well, it's just items within this
Right.
total of the 750. So,
Did we vote on this in December when you presented it?
no, it was just a
No,
presentation.
absolutely not.
Just-
I mean, Ken, do you want to put it through for the whole 757?
I mean, I would. I mean, this is what we identified as needs that need to be done for next year. I mean, if we want to pull something out because some of it was for equipment, I mean, and then just put towards the renovations.
So just to
and
clarify,
maintenance upgrades.
that number, the 767,
67.
none of those things are covered by the bond,
No.
and all of those things are identified needs.
There are
So I would put forward, since at least this is something tangible, I would choose that number and put that forward to the town for FY27. But also, like, we should be putting together a more comprehensive plan, but I don't think,
Well, also, we should see the asset management plan as a school committee before it gets presented, and
Yeah,
so we could talk, so going forward, next year, we change the way we do things. Maybe this year we do what you two are saying, Jen, maybe we do the long-term one, revisit that next year when we have more time to think about. I like the concept of asking for 500,000 a year, or some number
Some amount.
a year, after we've gone over what we
Yeah,
see
what
in
it
the
was,
long term.
what, the way that the old plan was, and we can most certainly dig it up, is it was basically like, this is the request for each year, and this is what will
These are
happen,
the
like with set
buckets, yeah.
requests. And then they
Right.
had like accountability on that. So like, it was just finishing up when I came on, and we were working through the list and what they had been allocated from the town and whatnot. And so I definitely think that that is the correct approach, but in the interest of time, my recommendation would be just to put forward the request that had gone to the asset management committee, because at least that is what the asset management committee has assessed.
Seen. Okay,
We should
that makes
ask
sense.
the request, we should request that money from the town, and then as the asset management committee prioritizes that list, if priorities from the school are prioritized by the overall asset management committee, at least we've then officially requested what is being prioritized, and then go from there, just in the interest of time.
And 767 is the cost between the 2 pages.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you asked for that number because it's up to the town for what, that's what we need. That is what is not in the bond, that are identified needs for the capital buildings in our town right now. That is what we know. Is there going to be other things? Yes. But I think we just ask for that amount and then leave it up to the asset management committee and the town council to make determinations on how they want to allocate the town capital money. So that would be, if someone wanted to make a motion, what I would recommend. But also,
All right, Ken, that's what you want to do?
Yes.
I will make that motion.
Second.
okay, any further discussion? I would also make a recommendation maybe on the budget calendar to include that deadline next year. On the, that should be something that we know about. Yes. Any other discussion?
No.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anything else on the budget? I'm done, so unless
So
something.
many things, but no.
Okay.
No more, Rip? Jen?
What's that?
No, there's
Disappointing,
more,
you don't have
but-
another question.
All right, correspondence?
January 27th, Kara Martone, 2027 preliminary budget / agenda for January 27th. January 27th, Bob Jones, agenda for January 27th. January 28th, Matt McCoy, project aware, applications opening soon. January 28th, Kara Martone, school bond project questions. January 29th, Matt McCoy, Leader Ciccone, issue statement on legislation concerning ICE operations within Rhode Island. January 29th, Kara Martone, follow-up on budget questions. February 3rd, Kara Martone, follow-up on budget questions.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.